Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
You really adopted the dark. I was born in it.
Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
Bazinga.
2 in the box.
Ready to go.
We be fast.
They be slow.
Cool.
And we're recording. Thank you.
Stop.
What? Welcome to the Mt.Geekmore podcast, your favorite podcast where we like to talk, discuss, argue about your top 4, your Mount Rushmores, if you will, of your favorite pop culture subjects. And today's pop culture subject, as you can tell by your listening device, is favorite 1980s sitcoms. Sitcoms that took place in the 80s. So I am Nary Science. With me, as usual, is Jeff. And we have David.
Howdy.
And today we have a blast from the past. Blast from the past. We have
thunder from down under.
We have our own. We have our own.
That's me.
We have our. We have our own TBT. Throwback Thursday. It is Steph, anie, Meyer-Senior.
I was waiting for
She
that
come
one.
from the land down under.
So Stephanie's here visiting. She has her brother's wedding.
Yeah.
And we decided to sneak her in for a dinner. You brought your boyfriend?
Yes.
Fiance? I don't know.
Partner.
What is, I don't
Whatever.
know. Partner.
Well, I mean, in Australia, he's my partner.
G'day.
I promise he's real.
And Dave, we wanted to get him food that he hadn't had before. So my initial reaction was Venezuelan food. And then my wife's initial reaction was Nicaraguan food. So it's funny because we were thinking about the other person.
Aw.
And so I was like, I want to get him something he's never had before. And then she was like, well, let's get him Outback. And I was like, I don't.
That would have been.
Fake Australian food.
I was like, I don't know if that's. I'm like, I want to get him good food that he hasn't had before. So I don't know if that's going to work.
Yeah. To be fair, I do actually want to take him there one day. Just to see.
Just to have a blooming onion, just to see.
Yeah.
I
He wants one.
I guarantee you that the waitress is going to be like, wait, you're really Australian?
Why are you here?
Code blue.
You think the waitress is going to speak English?
Oh, that's true.
In Miami?
Here.
Yeah, he did point that out the other day. That he was
Hello.
like, I am getting used to the fact that everyone's going to speak to you in Spanish first.
Yeah.
Welcome to Outback.
Yeah.
You sound like you're from London.
He gets it a lot.
Do you have a taste of Down Under?
Hey,
Ooh, that sounds dirty when she says
if
it.
the YouTube YouTube and Facebook videos are any indication, just be glad that they try to speak to you in English. If they do try to speak
That's
to you in
true.
English.
That's true.
This is Hialeah.
Yeah, that happened at a Taco
Yep.
Bell.
Yeah.
Did you ever see
What?
that?
No.
No, you didn't see that
Oh,
video?
man.
No.
We thought it went viral everywhere, but apparently it didn't cross the ocean. Lady from Taco Bell in Hialeah, there was a customer. The video starts with a lady already getting mad at him, and he was like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, I can't. I'm trying to order food. And she's like, yo no entiendo. No entiendo. And he was like, let me talk to a supervisor. And the supervisor came and was like, no entiendo, no entiendo. Like, they were just.
Oh.
Neither one of them was trying very hard to be understood. So that from the customer's perspective, they were right in the sense that they're the customer and the customer's always right and, whatever. But you could have been like a numero uno, a 1-0,
Yeah,
a 2.
like
You could put fingers
that
up, you know what
one.
I'm saying? And be like 4. They come in fucking combos. Like, you could do
Yeah.
that. However, they didn't do that. But the Taco Bell people, legit, the lady was like,
Taco Bell.
no. She was like, I'm not, like, in Spanish, she was like, no, so I could get it. And then they were recording it. And then when they left, this is what got her fired. And she's like, esta es Hialeah. And that was her thing, her reason for not speaking English to them.
Because she does.
'Cause she does.
It's the reverse of how you thought that story would go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, that's tricky. I don't know where I land there. I land in good customer service.
No, they were definitely wrong in that sense. I mean, even though they were wrong. I mean, but to me, the customer was like, they didn't even try. Like, they were just like, dude, like, again, you shouldn't have to try.
Yeah.
You're the fucking customer.
Right.
And you're in America, you really shouldn't have to try. But if I'm I'm just, as a fat guy, I'm like, no, I'm fucking hungry. I'm gonna, whatever language you speak, bro.
I will learn it.
We will fucking
we'll work this out.
Yeah.
Get me a step stool. I will climb up there and point at the number.
Climb.
Whoa.
Yeah, I just, I will, I was Siri, how do you say
Uno.
How do you say just fucking churro? Like, I don't, like, I know this shit.
I mean, like, just give me a paper.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll write down the number.
I'll draw it for you.
Anyways, so that's that. But that was old school. Anyways, so we are now doing the Mt.Geekmore of 80s sitcoms.
Which everybody's had enough ample time to prep for.
Yes, so much time.
So much ample time.
I'm not done.
The ampleness of her time.
It's a good thing you go first.
Hey, you want to use a coaster? You uncultured swine.
I was using the sticker that's broken.
I've been watching. Whatchamacallit?
Cool. Good talk.
Toy Story. Sorry. All right, so
I was trying to figure out what that line was from, and I couldn't remember. Yeah, that's it. You uncultured swine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing they're
That's
talking
after
to the piggy
the
bank.
look. I'm a Picasso.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't get it. I'm like, you uncultured swine.
What are you looking at, ya hockey puck?
Oh my God.
Yep.
Yeah, I know that movie well. I can't
You
believe
are such a
I didn't pick that up.
You are
right
full
away.
parent.
Yeah. yeah, that's why.
Let's go with that.
Yep.
Let's go with that.
Yeah. Okay. Who is having to deal with this? Okay, so I'm accustomed to our format and knowing that it's a top four. Right. However, with that said, apparently this is like
you're so confused with this.
Key time of sitcoms. Like I'm just really torn. I need something that helps me.
You're Natalie
eliminate. I'm so torn. Like I need help. I need someone help me.
So you're looking for like You're looking for self-imposed rules. Go with the ones that the theme songs you know the best.
I'm gonna check right
I bow to your better knowledge.
Okay.
now. Tell us everything about Natalie and Bruglia, Dave. No.
Never get starstruck.
Is Natalie? She is Australian, right?
That's what I'm checking right now.
It seems to be the
No,
She's an
that's
Australian singer-songwriter.
There you go.
Yeah.
Naturalized in the UK.
Nary just solved all my problems.
So we just to make clear, it has to be a show with the majority run in the 80s. It can't have started in the 80s and then run through.
Yeah, it can be like
had the majority
89
run in the 90s, right? Yeah. So like Family Matters is out.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, or fortunately, because it makes this list easier, because it's already tough for me.
Right, yeah. This is tough as it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
but as a kid who grew up watching, like, remember Nick at Night?
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I can't hear you because you don't have your...
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I'm trying to do my homework.
Would you like the larger mic stand so that you don't have to be...
Yeah,
Yeah, one of those is a sensitive mic. You shouldn't be grabbing it to begin with.
But can you hear him? Is it acting up?
I don't know.
Hello? Can
let's
you hear
find
me?
out later.
No, what's up?
It's the rubbing or that's
Oh.
that you could hear.
Would you like the little mic stand?
Should I rub it harder to find out?
So I don't rub it. I'll just hold it like this.
Cradle it.
I'm like the Freddie Mercury of podcasting right now.
You have to kind of like tilt it upwards.
I don't think you're overrated.
Okay, you shut
I don't
your
even believe that.
mouth.
I just want to get a reaction from
That
people.
was fucked.
Everybody just looked like they were like,
I realized that you could just do a mountain of shows with tiny people.
What?
I have a mountain right now
Peter
where the main
Dinklage.
where the main, no, I'm saying of main
80s
characters
shows,
of
yeah.
80 sitcoms.
Yeah.
I could do it right now.
Oh, yeah.
I still don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, nobody mentioned. I'm looking at you, Dave. If this is on your mountain,
All
But
right.
you go Small Wonder, Webster, Different Strokes, Alf. All little people is a
Well, he's
pretty much
not
a
a
main-
Alf was a
person.
puppet,
Yeah.
He's a little person though,
but he's a puppet.
but he's
They
tiny.
used a little person for some shots, though.
Oh,
No, they
well,
use a child.
Are,
Was it a child?
Are they full grown?
That's not a little person. A little person is actually a title. Is actually a description of a kind of person. It's like midget and
What did you just say?
politically correct.
yeah, it's a politically correct way of saying midget is little person.
Right, height impaired.
Right. But they're not children.
Hope I'm not offending you.
I'm trying my hardest not to explode right now. This is so offensive to
I'm
me.
a
and my
tornado
people.
of anger.
I'm seething with rage.
So how'd you still picking your mountain, Steph?
Well, Mary actually made it really easy on me.
While you guys were talking,
Yeah, well, everyone's talking shit.
she was asking me, how would you narrow this down? Like, can you give me some self-imposed rules? And I said, well, if you're really having a hard time, because she has 8 on her list,
Right.
go with the theme songs you know the most.
Oh,
That's not a bad.
Then
that's
just
not
go-
bad.
And
at all.
immediately I was like, and done.
And done.
There you go.
And finished. Because there's some on there that I know like they deserve it and they should be on there. But odds are they will be on other people's.
Okay.
So not my problem. I hope. And I hope we didn't all think that, because then we will be sad.
Well, no, I mean, I'll be okay.
Let's find out. Let's find
sounds
out.
like an hour and a half from now, Stephanie's problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. And an hour and a half now, Stephanie's going to be like, I'm so sorry, Bob. You were.
Why did I do that?
Why did past Stephanie hate me?
I always do this.
And what'd you do, Dave?
Truthfully, I went with like the first things that came to my head. I did search up, 80s sitcoms. There were a couple that I was like, okay, so I can't use that. I was thrown off by a few of these, but I went with the ones that I am most familiar with. So these are the ones that I would purposefully look for the reruns. Be like, oh, I want to watch this, or I had it on VHS or DVD or something, and like I went out of my way to watch these shows because they weren't airing when I was a kid. I was born in '87, so I found these on reruns.
Right. I think most of us, even you and I, are the oldest ones. I think.
I was born in 81, so
And I'm 82.
Some of these I saw.
Yeah, I can tell you, like, hands down, my numbers 2, 3, and 4, like, objectively, are not nearly as good as my number 1, but my number 1 was my favorite and still is. So, like, that's objectivity has nothing to do with this list.
It really does.
This is just like literally my favorites. You get it. You get the idea.
Right.
I'm gonna say samesies.
Okay.
I had my 1, 2, and 3 that I immediately put, and then I realized that my number 1 was as an adult. I realized how much that show was great. But growing up, the other shows that are on my list are the ones that I would watch religiously. Even though there's one on there that was definitely not directed towards me. But I fucking and I still watch it to this day, and I'll fall asleep to it sometimes when it's on TV because they still show reruns of it.
Yeah, that was the thing that made it tough for me on the list too, because like there's some things that immediately popped in my head, and then I'm like, revisiting that would probably be traumatic. Like I probably wouldn't be able to rewatch some of these shows in recent light, so they didn't make the list.
Right. There's one show that I'm assuming is going to make somebody's list that a later show trumped it for me and made me
Oh
not
yeah,
like
yeah,
it
yeah.
as much.
I'm with you on that.
So lost.
You might know what I'm
Didn't make
talking
my
about.
list. Didn't make my list.
Okay.
Honorable mention, but didn't make my list.
Okay. What about you, Neri?
So fucking lost on what you guys are trying to hide.
Well, he says the honorable mention. Unless somebody says it on their mouth.
I'm kind of doing now, taking my own advice, because I had 7, and I'm just gonna whatever comes. Whatever.
Oh yeah, I had 13 by the way.
Yeah. I had 7. I had 7 that I was like, these are it, and so they're very tough for me. But I'm just gonna go with. I think my number 1 is kind of cemented on there. That was really the only one, and then after that, it was just kind of like,
Same.
let's see which ones I liked more as a kid. So.
Oh, so you're sticking to like Kid Eyes?
No, I'm saying which was because these are the episodes I've seen, the shows that I've seen more episodes of, and it just happened to be when I was a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I haven't gone back to revisit any of these shows. That's not true. Okay.
There's one that I've gone back to.
Yeah,
revisit.
there's one. I'm looking at one now. All right, so, but for the most part, I'm just gonna go with my gut and be like, I'm not
That's
gonna
what
overthink
happened.
It is what it is. Yeah.
There's no from these 7. There's no bad list and there's no good list for me.
Yeah.
There's no, so I can't do any wrong and I can't do any right. Like I'm always gonna leave somebody out and I'm always gonna include somebody that I like. So
Yeah.
it is what it is, man. So
All right.
All right, cool.
all right, number 4, Stephanie.
Okay, so some of my list timing wise probably gonna have arguments,
Okay.
but I feel like this one actually does straddle it.
What do you?
Here we go again.
There's no feeling.
This happened
There's
last
actual numbers.
Yeah.
There are
No.
numbers involved.
Math is...
Because
You know what you
split,
should've
because it
done?
was an even split.
If it's an even split, you can put it into whatever
Yes.
decade you want.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Mork and Mindy.
Okay.
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 I feel like Mork and Mindy should be on there.
Okay.
All right.
So yes, my number 4 is Mork and Mindy because Nanu Nanu.
Nanu, nanu.
what is the theme song?
No, see, I didn't go with that rule on that
Oh.
one. I just went on Robin Williams.
Oh, okay.
I just went on not doing Robin Williams. At that point, I was like, okay, catchphrase. I'm good with the catchphrase.
Oh, okay.
I'll live with the catchphrase for that one.
No, this isn't an even split. It had 3 years in the 80s. 80, 81, 82.
Yeah.
And it only had 78 and 79 in the 90s.
That's it. Yeah.
Math
So,
is
yeah,
math
so
is
yeah.
tough.
it's not an even split at all.
Okay,
It's,
I haven't.
it's
looked
an
at
80s
this.
show.
I didn't have much time to prepare.
You've had you act like I just told you this 15 minutes ago. I told you this like 3 hours ago now.
Oh,
Granted,
please. It was not. We were also hanging out for a good portion of that. Wait,
it's
I don't remember any of this.
yeah, it's 9:32 p.m. and I literally told you this at 7. So you've had 2.5 hours. It's been fine.
We've been
That's
hanging.
the Mork and Mindy theme song.
I don't remember this theme song at all, but I
No.
remember the show
I
quite
don't
well.
remember
Me
the
either.
show at
The
all.
things
I've
I
never
do
seen the
remember
show.
the things I do remember the
Yeah.
show
See
itself.
Mork and Mindy?
I've seen clips and I know the catchphrases and I know the and I know it was done and it was introduced from Happy Days.
Yeah.
So I know that and I have a vivid image of him in the red suit and blah blah
Yeah.
blah. But I've never seen an episode of that show.
Yeah, that show was such a bonding show for me and my dad. I used to watch it with him all the time. So it is. It is
And
very.
only
that
your
too.
number 4? Jesus.
Well, because the
What,
other
you
ones.
Rocky's son?
Fuck off.
Awful.
No, like it's not like my dad's dead. If my dad was dead, it'd be number 1.
Right.
Like,
Lord. So this list is going to change one day.
oh, don't. He's lived forever.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's
Did
gonna live
did I spoil
forever.
something for you? You were like,
He's gonna live forever. Stop it. No, yeah. So for me, yeah, Mork and Mindy, just because like it brought us Robin Williams, and like I feel like it deserves to be on the mountain for that alone.
That's a great. I mean, yeah.
He was him being so young. Like the comedy is so much more physical
Yeah.
than what
His actual
we
comedy.
tend to see later on in his career. Not that he wasn't
All
a
over
very
the place.
physical, right, all over the place sort of comedian, but it's got that energy, that really young energy that you see in him.
It's called Coke.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Coke was way better in the 70s. dude.
Yeah,
Uncut. It was amazing.
yeah. Beginning 80s. Yeah, fair. Yeah, that's my number 4. I don't really have much to say about it except like to me, Robin Williams alone kind of made it. It makes it rewatchable for me.
Dave.
My number 4, I'm almost certain, is going to be tabled, and it's the Golden Girls.
Tabled.
Okay.
My number 4 is probably not going to be tabled. Maybe by Neri, but I doubt it. Is Head of the Class.
You call it an audible?
Just take it off.
No, that was one of the 7, and I was like, I'm just going to, yeah. I love that fucking
Yeah,
show.
Head of
Preach
the-
on, brother.
Dude, I don't remember that show.
Head of the Class. It was with.
I had 2 different teachers.
Yeah, well, because it started with Henry Hessman. He was from WKRP. He was Dr. Johnny Fever on
Cincinnati.
WK, which also counts for this.
WKRP in Cincinnati. yeah.
Counts for this. But
It was
Probably gonna
86
show
to
it was
91.
It was 86 to 91, and it was him for the first 4 seasons, and then for the final season, he left the show, and they brought in Billy Connolly,
Yeah.
the Scottish actor. But
Who's
it,
fantastic.
And this is one of the only things that Billy's ever done that he didn't die in.
is that true?
He dies in
Everything.
so many things.
He's like Sean Bean.
He's died in so many things.
Oh, I understand that reference.
On Mark Maron's podcast. I don't know if you know. Mark Maron has some podcasts. I don't know.
Yeah, I listen. I don't know.
And it's a small local thing. Anyways, he,
Obama on.
he had Billy on, and Billy says that there are times where his kids were like didn't even want to go to movie premieres because they were like, "How quickly do you die?" That was the question that they would ask, like, "How quickly do you die in this one?" And they're like, "No, I'm like, yeah, you're gonna die in this one." So that's the thing. But that Head of the Class was the first thing I ever saw him in, and he was again fantastic. Sorry to take your.
No, you're good.
pick.
I mean, it had a few notable people on the show as students. It takes place in a high school honors program, and the main character is the history teacher, and it takes place during that time, which is ironic enough that I wanted to become a history teacher.
So did I.
Yeah,
I went to
that's
school
what
for it.
And then Robin Givens is one of the students that she was one of the kids. Short Rounds
kids
was one of the kids.
the kids alternate all the time. They would alternate throughout the seasons.
And then,
starting to jog my memory.
yeah, Short Round, the actor. Who
There was a
Short
fat
Round
guy
one
who
of
was
them.
a class clown.
K. Kwan, or
Yeah, he was one of the kids.
There was a fat guy that was a
I
class
have to
clown.
make
He
a
had
copy of
his
that
last
picture
down
for
to
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was just a really cool show, and like I remember watching it when I was younger, and I was like, man, these high school kids are really cool. Look at them all; they're smart, but they're hanging out. And I want to be I want a teacher like that.
There was an Asian little girl that was like, she was like super young.
Yeah, they had she was like the advanced student.
She was like the whole class was advanced.
Mm-hmm.
But she was like super
But she
advanced.
was like a child prodigy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they had her like they had that aspect in the show where it was like a kid literally amongst a bunch of teenagers.
But that kid didn't rotate. It's just like other students rotated.
No,
Yeah.
there was always a child. It's just that one was a girl, and then there was another one.
Brad
where-
Pitt was on an episode of it.
Huh.
Yeah, because look, that's like the guy he was referring to, and next to Brad Pitt.
The teacher.
He looks like Josh Peck.
Oh, no, the fat, yeah. The fat class clown. I was like, cool.
Well, here's the thing. The funny part about that guy is that he went on to do a bunch of Disney Channel shows until he got busted for child pornography, like last year or earlier this
Well,
year.
you know, not
Oh,
all
that guy.
Wait.
not all of us are into that kind of stuff. I'm just saying, fat class clown. I'm like, I could relate to some things. I couldn't relate to everything he did. That's what I was trying to say.
You didn't let me finish.
Yeah, you didn't let me finish.
But yeah, I just really loved that show. I know that there's probably the argument there's a better sitcoms out there, but for me,
Not really.
was a
That show was really good, man.
I really loved watching that show, and it was a smart, funny show. And growing up as a kid, I watched it. I was like 7 years old, and I was watching it, and I was getting it.
If you have to look that one up, I don't remember. Like,
That
there's
one's hard to
parts of what you were describing that started jogging my memory, but then I'm like, I feel like I've seen parodies of this.
I found that Hulu was best for rewatching a lot of these older TV shows.
I wonder if that's on there.
Well,
I don't know where.
IMDb will tell you where it's playing.
Oh,
right?
it does?
Doesn't it?
Doesn't matter. We don't get Hulu.
What? You don't
Oh,
get
no?
No.
Hulu? Oh, wow.
All right, well, that's my number
I
4.
don't- That's a somber note. Why don't you guys get Hulu? I don't understand.
Going through this quickly. Jeez. Neri, you're number 4?
Number 3?
Hold on, give me a second.
I mean, the problem
we
is
did already.
it's
Okay,
there's going to
okay.
be some tables.
Yeah. Well, we've already
Yeah.
had one.
All right, so my number 4 is gonna be, man. What a fucking. How do I?
I know.
You son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
My number 4 is gonna be. Who's the boss?
Okay.
Okay.
Honorable mention.
How the fuck do you guys? I thought that for sure that was gonna be.
Nah, bro.
Alright.
No, dog.
Who's the Boss is a fantastic show. Tony Danza, Alyssa Milano. That's my first TV crush was.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Alyssa Milano. Yeah,
Not my first TV crush. Amy Jo Johnson was, but listen, Milano.
no,
Amy Jo
But
Johnson
Alyssa
might have been
Milano was
my
before.
first.
Alyssa Milano, like that show. Who's the Boss was on the air before Power Rangers was.
Oh, so
Yeah.
then maybe no, she was my first crush.
Unless you went back to watch Who's the Boss and then at 13 go, oh, look at that 8-year-old Alyssa Milano.
Wow.
That was like.
Listen, stop projecting.
But yeah, Alyssa Milano was my. I remember watching her in Commando and being like,
Yeah.
I know that girl.
Naked?
That was my introduction to Alyssa Milano.
Yeah, but Who's the Boss was first, and then
Right, yeah.
and then I watched Commando. Actually, what year was Commando?
85.
Let me see.
Might have been around the same time. I think she was 13, maybe.
Who's the Boss was 84.
Okay,
So
yeah,
84 to
same-
92.
same age, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it was the show was fantastic. The show was great. I love the show. Of the 4 shows, I would probably say, yeah, of my top 4, I would have to say.
When was the last time you rewatched it, though?
Probably like 10 years ago. It's probably been like 10 years.
And it wouldn't have been the whole thing either, right? Just a couple episodes.
I mean, I watch a lot.
Well, it was
I
easier
watch
to do
a
that
lot.
with TV back then. You just kind of tune in.
Pop in, yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of. the
But
nature of it.
I haven't. But I mean, it's really fucking good. I mean, they used to play it at Nick at Night like 10 years ago. That's where I would watch it, and I would watch like two or three episodes a night every night, and then do that. But it's been a while.
Classic Mona.
It's been a while.
Mona was the best.
She was the best. There's an episode of Family Guy where the theme of the parade down whatever street, Spooner Street, is the theme was Who's the Boss?
Oh, I remember this.
And one of the episodes is Tony walks in on Mona while she's drying herself, and the shot that they use on the show is the shot from behind Mona where she's drying herself off, and then you see the door. So you see Mona in the front, and then you see Tony in the back walking in, and they kind of both freeze. And in the episode of Family Guy, they're like, "Oh, look at that! That's an amazing. That's from episode blah blah blah." He's like, "Look at the way they got the liver spots just right," and I was like, and it's so fucking funny because as a kid, I remember thinking she must have like those discolorations. I didn't know they were called liver spots as a kid, but I was like, "Yeah, I get it." But it was fucking fantastic. But I love that. Like everything about that show is great. The will they, won't they between Tony and Angela was great. This is the show where I first learned that advertising marketing was a thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know because it came out when I was 5 years old. So yeah, I would say I would.
No, I'm saying like I'm wondering why you realized that then.
Because I remember that every so often there would be episodes where she was like, "My new client is a hot dog," and then they would try to come up with slogans, and I'm like, "Oh, I could come up with a fucking good one." And I remember thinking that as I'm watching the show, there would be some episodes where, like, for example, one episode where Tony became the spokesman for a soap. The soap made him itchy, and I remember it was like a cess kind of, like cess fully clean type of shit, but it wasn't cess, but it was something like that. And I remember
Irish Spring.
I remember thinking to myself, like, I could do that job. And then it wasn't until I was like 14 that I was like, I could, watching reruns, and I could do that job. And my brother was like, that takes a college degree. I was like, no. Guess I can't do that. Whatever. But yeah, that's. I mean, Who's the Boss is great, and plus it's a great theme song. I don't know the theme song, but I remember the intro very well as far as the scene, the traveling from Brooklyn to Connecticut.
Yep.
In the van.
Yeah. See, every single time I try to bring up in my head the file for that song, all I hear is Charles in Charge instead. Okay. All right.
Was that the $6 Million Man running?
Yes. We could rebuild. Did the $6 Billion Man do well? Better than
Bionic Woman? I don't think so. No, I think Bionic Woman
by pay standards
fared better.
Right. Well, Bionic Woman was cheaper.
Not saying I agree with it. Don't send hateful emails, three of you.
Yeah, we don't have female listeners. What are you talking about?
Your female listeners are also on your podcasts.
Yeah.
There's better ones.
Oh, I'm not saying they're not. I'm saying, but
that should be a mountain.
This is
theme songs.
These title cards are so 80s.
Yeah,
we did.
I love
theme
it.
Song. We did theme song pre
80s.
Pre 80s. We have to do a post.
Yeah.
One. But anyway,
we could just do one called 80s and 90s because that's how there is. Because they don't do theme songs anymore, man. All right, so that was mine.
Nice.
I like it.
Boss. I thought I was gonna be. I thought somebody else was gonna say it.
Well, you thought wrong, sucker.
There's too many options.
I agree. I concur.
I don't know if that's going to happen a whole lot for us.
All right, so Who's the Boss? So number 4 is where Mork and Mindy, Golden Girls, Head of the Class, Who's the Boss? All right, number 3.
Okay, so my number 3 is Three's Company.
Honorable mention for me.
Yeah.
It is an honorable mention for me because it fits just in the window of the umbrella. I mean, of the years.
It really does. Yeah. And that's why when I originally thought Three's Company, like to me, I thought 70s.
Yeah, I always think more 70s.
But
yeah.
I always think more Suzanne Summers, which was only in the first season.
Who doesn't?
Which was only in the first season, and then
it gave us John Ritter.
But I'm saying John Ritter. So like for me,
took
John.
It away.
Oh.
Sorry.
Me.
Too real.
Life. No, but for me, just like a lot of it, like Three's Company kind of goes in there with the way Mork and Mindy was. Like for me, John Ritter. Three's Company is just one of the ones I can rewatch and still find.
Is your mountain only about based upon which comedians got their start in it? Like
this is where it stops. This is where it stops.
All right.
Here's the thing. This is just me shot in the dark statement, but I think that might be the first time that I found out what a gay person was.
With Three's Company?
Yeah, because remember, he was pretending to be gay to be in the apartment.
It wasn't when your friend touched you? That wasn't it?
Oh, that's just dark.
Wow.
That was how I found out.
That's how we didn't. Nobody else had a kid. Nobody else experimented with the word kid. Somebody else touched your
I thought you were taking that somewhere else.
What do you think I was taking?
I don't know. The way you were talking.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's how I found out. Yeah.
Yeah. And you go, no, I don't like that.
No, I was molested by my best friend.
Oh, I wasn't molested.
Okay, this is why it gets dark.
There's consent. There's definitely consent.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
This is just about
Yeah, I didn't know.
sitcoms. This
Yeah.
is just about hating sitcoms and John Ritter.
Was that a bike shop? Was there
What was the same kid?
was there a bicycle shop? Was there a bicycle shop?
Yeah, the Snapper Creek one, right?
You believe there was puppies in that van? Didn't you?
I'm not an idiot. Show me the puppy first.
Wait, was it like that?
I'll get in the fucking van. Just show me the puppy first.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like that sicko kid, that weird kid.
Yeah, I mean,
in like pre-K and kindergarten. who just
totally.
wants
I
to-
mean, not his fault. I'm sure it was done to him. You know, it was like
that's
that's what
How
worse.
long did this
Jesus
motherfucker
Christ,
just
we
say
are
that?
now
It's
gonna really.
worse.
Come and knock on our door.
See what you did,
I'll be
Jeff?
waiting for you. It's mine.
Three's Company 2.
So, but Don Knotts, you had Don Knotts in the show.
Don Knotts is fantastic.
Yes.
I've seen maybe 3 episodes of the show, if that, yeah.
No.
Did you just pick that number? Get it?
Three's Company.
Yeah, well,
3 episodes?
Maybe I should do comedy. I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe I should do comedy as a kid. So yeah,
You don't wanna
For
rush
me, like,
into
yeah, like I think it still holds up. Personally, I haven't rewatched it in the decade as well. Like I did rewatch it as a teenager a few times and stuff like that. But I'm ancient. So.
that was way over 10 years. You said as a teenager, that was way over a decade.
wow.
This is true.
Dang.
No,
She's
no.
just really bad at math. She can't count, so I'm just trying to help her out. No, it's longer than a
you know
decade.
What? I'm just used to saying decade.
Yeah.
For everything.
Yeah.
I'm just used to it.
Do
And
you
I go
think?
back and
Do
I'm
you
like,
still feel like you graduated high school 10 years ago? I do, and it's been 19.
I'm just surprised you graduated high school.
Ooh.
It's been 19 years.
I have not thought about it.
Yeah, it hit me. Last year, it hit me that the kids who were born, the kids that were graduating last year were not born when I graduated high school, and that was
Okay, I'm not there yet.
That was the first year that happened.
I'm not there yet.
Yeah,
my students are all born post 9/11.
That's weird to me.
Yeah.
To me, that people exist after.
Yeah, that they didn't live in a world that 9/11
9/11 is history for them. It's not
Yeah, like to them, it's Pearl Harbor.
right. It may as well
to them,
Yeah.
it's not memory. It's I read that in a book.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
be like, oh, I saw a movie once. And it's like, ooh.
Right.
So like
Yeah.
I like to show films after we read a novel, either to like accentuate some themes, or it'll be like
Or
an
to kill
adaptation,
some
of
time.
or to kill time.
Right.
And so oftentimes they'll ask me like, "How old is this movie?" And I'll say, "Oh, it's not that old. It came out in the 80s or the 90s." They're like, "Sure, that was 30, 40 years ago." Like, okay, so
You all
it's,
failed.
So it's old. So it's old.
You all fucking
Yeah.
fail. How about that?
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Do that
Oh, no.
math.
Yeah, I was having this. Yeah, I was having this great conversation with my my younger cousin who's here. Her like the front door neighbor and her like friends now. So the front door neighbor was like hanging out at my parents' house, and then we started talking. She saw my Adidas. I saw they're wearing like crop tops and like all these things now, and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I had those sweatpants. And then she's like, yeah, no, I love how like everything old is back, and I'm like, whoa. I had
We were
that
cool,
outfit.
and
Calm
now
down.
we're not.
Yeah, I'd be like, and then David and me are sitting there like crying. And then you have gray hair for real. It's not just
This is
fashion.
bullshit.
All right.
So Three's Company.
Three's Company.
Yeah.
You know what my introduction to Three's Company was? A movie called Stay Tuned.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, because John Ritter's in it, and he gets sucked into the satellite.
Satellite.
And
love that
and he
movie so
pops
much.
into
Coming out on
Three's
Blu-ray in
Company.
January.
Yeah, so excited.
Coming out on Blu-ray in January.
And so I was watching this movie with my dad, and he starts laughing hysterically. And I'm like, oh, I don't get it. He was like, that was where this actor got his start. Mm-hmm. And so that was my introduction
Was
to...
that pre?
It was like your introduction to a
No,
callback.
that's not pre. That's not pre Three's Company.
No. It's supposed
No,
to be
post-
Company.
Right.
But that's where
Yeah.
I was introduced to it.
Absolutely,
This
yeah.
was like
Correct.
early 90s.
Correct.
So like this was,
Yeah.
I was already cognizant of,
Yeah.
things.
Right.
So,
The things.
the things and the
So wait,
stuff.
so when you were introduced to what gay was before we go back to that dark
'cause I think
place,
that's the first time. I think that might be the first time where that idea.
like the word came up.
Well, because I don't know if they ever said
Not
it. They
even bosom
implied
buddies.
it.
Not even bosom buddies. Didn't.
But, well, because the thing is, Bosom Buddies got canceled before I was born.
all right.
And
It
this
was
show's
only for
good.
2 years.
But bosom buddies, I like bosom buddies, but bosom buddies wasn't actually gay. It was just
They were dressing up as men.
They
Yeah,
were
I
dressing
mean,
up as
when-
women.
to be in the apartment.
Right.
I mean, I saw it eventually, and I
Yeah.
dug it.
Mm-hmm.
But that,
I've never actually seen it. So
yeah, but
Tom
I
Hanks.
think
man.
that might have been
Oh,
the first
fuck.
time.
Jeez.
Yeah,
You didn't know Bosom Buddies was Tom Hanks?
I had no idea. I've heard of the show plenty of times. Never done any research.
Tom Hanks, and then the guy who played the guy who took over Rick Moranis in.
That's
Honey,
what I was
Honey-
thinking too.
Oh, that guy. Okay.
That's the only thing he's done.
No, is it?
It's Bosom Buddies and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids TV
Is it?
show.
Is that it?
I mean,
Yeah, see, like when I was a
I'm
kid,
sure he's done
yeah.
1,000 things, but you're like, all right, I don't fucking remember. You know?
See, I'm sure you guys don't remember it like this, but like with Three's Company and stuff like that, like I, as a girl, don't remember when Susan Sarandon got replaced. Like to me, I was
Well, I
just like
wasn't born, so yeah, you're
No,
right.
obviously, but I'm saying like to you, you're like, oh, you think Three's Company, you're like only think Susan Sarandon from not Susan.
That's the first
Susan
thing
Summers.
I think of.
But for me, I'm just like it's just blonde chick, replaceable, done.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I had the hots for Suzanne Summers.
I had the hots
I mean,
for
she's
all of
beautiful.
them.
I mean,
I had the hots for all of them, but I again,
Including John Ritter.
I only know about Three's Company from like TV history. Like whenever they talk about TV history,
Okay.
Three's Company comes up, and then so I know about the show. I just never sat down and watched the show. I've watched maybe 2 or 3 episodes tops,
Same. Yeah.
if that. So
Yeah, it was actually one of the ones I actually grew up watching. If you like, I think when I was younger, my attention span, I could not sit down and watch some of the more somber ones. Like I wasn't one to sit. Oh, okay. I would bring up ones that are probably going to be on other people's mountains. Like I couldn't actually sit down long enough to watch like Cheers or
which is
No, I actually like Taxi.
which is another reason why in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, when he used the example of Diane and Sam, I was like, I don't buy it. He was a kid at that fucking. He was a kid during the 80s when Cheers was on. I didn't buy it. I was like, when he was using
How
Diane
old would
and
he
Sam,
have been? How
he
old-
would have been 8 years old. You're not watching Cheers at 8 years old and then be able to
remembering
know.
Diane and Sam.
You know what? That's a fair point.
I said that when the movie came out, and
Yeah.
she literally goes, "I watched Cheers when I was that age." I was like,
I
"Oh,
did,
fuck me."
but I don't think I would have put it together. Diane and Sam, if it wasn't for pop culture post
Yeah,
exactly.
Cheers.
So the guy from Bosoms Up Buddies, he did Bosoms Up Buddies, did a bunch of shows, but there's one movie that he did that now makes more sense to me that he was in it.
What?
The movie Sorority Boys, the one that came out where those 3 guys pretend, the guy from Seventh Heaven, Michael Rosenbaum, they pretend to be girls to and
Oh my
Harlan
god, I
Williams.
forgot about that.
They pretend to be dressed
you
as
should.
women
As you
to
should.
stay
Yeah.
in a sorority house for free.
Oh,
like
so he's
Harlan
well
Williams.
versed.
He's in that movie, and he was a guy who
Because
dressed
they
up
did
like
call back too.
Tom Hanks would not do that movie.
No, he would not. He was
Typecasting.
already Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
They did there was an award show where it was a TV, like it was like one of those Naked Night award shows, and it was maybe within the last 5 years, and Tom Hanks was there for Bosom Buddies, like he was there, and then the other guy keeps trying to like interrupt, and he's like, hold on, give me a second, you'll get your chance, whatever. So it's like a whole skit, whatever, and so after Tom Hanks does his acceptance speech or whatever, they start the music, and it's like if there's nobody else, and then that was the whole thing. Yeah,
That's funny.
That's great.
So
Yeah,
Three's Company, you're number 3.
Nice.
Can you imagine being that guy?
That's
Just imagine your career,
Just
like
not Tom Hanks?
both of you, yeah, because both of you had this, both of you co-starred in the same shit show,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and one of you became the world's greatest actor, and then the other one is you. You know what I mean?
And the other one was in Sorority Boys.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
it's the same thing with Bill and Ted's Excellent. Like,
Yeah.
one of you
Fucking
is
Alex
fucking
Winter.
one of you is Keanu
Fuck you,
Reeves,
Alex
and the
Winter.
other one is
is a
you know,
fuckhead.
is an asshole
Sorry.
at Comic Con.
why-
Oh, it was a bad experience at a Comic
Bad
Con.
experience
what
at a Comic Con with that
happened?
dick face.
Yeah.
First of all, I get a Bill and Ted picture. Geekmore people have heard this 7 times. I don't care. I'm going to tell it to Steph. I had a picture of the famous picture of them coming out of the fucking phone booth. I pay money for him to sign it, and he signs it on Keanu's side. One. Then my best friend goes, "Hey, let's get a photo with him. We'll split it." I go, "All right, cool." So we pay for the photo. It's us and 2 other groups of people. 6 people. That's it in the
That's
entire
messed
con.
up.
Paid to take pictures with him. The guys in front of us go, "Hey, can we do the guitar
Air
like
guitar?
the air guitar?" And he goes, "You can do whatever you want. I'm gonna stand right here."
Oh.
And I'm like, "Bitch, 6 people wanted a picture with you. Fuck off!" Like,
I feel
what
like
the
people are
fuck's
still
wrong-
acknowledging your existence
Yeah.
because of this one movie.
Yeah,
Can you?
You were the shitty one in Lost Boys. Fuck you.
Yeah, no. She's right.
Well,
Fucking guy.
Dawson's dad was amazing when I met him. He was awesome.
Yeah.
That's the only photo op I've ever done.
I was
That's the only one I've ever done.
I didn't know you were going to do it.
I've only been to one Comic-Con ever, and 1.5, and
Right.
and then
I've still yet to go to one.
and Dawson's Creek. Well, if you come next 4th of July,
We already booked our hotels.
we already booked
for
the hotels for SuperCon. It's in the beach. It's in
They've
Miami.
already announced Neil Adams and a bunch of other comic book people.
So,
Just saying, Dave.
if you come to celebrate the liberation from that country, you could.
Well,
your
Well,
people.
not Australia, but yeah. No, the other one.
but okay. So Dave's number.
My number 3 is another one that I think may be tabled, and it's Taxi.
Wait, hold on. Let me check again.
It is.
No one else says Taxi?
Oh crap! I just looked at it and I
just took
see
it off.
Surfing Bird and I go, oh wait, that's not the right.
No,
list.
I literally had Taxi and I just took it off.
Okay, so
My
I
honorable mention.
love Taxi. This is a show I haven't seen probably, I'm going to say over 10 years, since the 10 years thing is obviously not working out. But it's one of those shows that stuck with me. All the characters were so completely ridiculous
Fucking
and
Latka.
outlandish. Latka
Fucking
is
Latka,
one of my
man.
favorite TV characters of all time. Knock knock. And his relationship with Simca just like makes it all the better. I didn't really go for like the crazy split personality thing that they did later on in the show. I love this idea of him just being like this weird foreigner, like Fez.
Yeah.
On that 70s show is really just a ripoff of Latka, but
But Fez was funny though.
I think I don't know, man. I love Andy Kaufman.
I just don't get Andy Kaufman. I just don't get it. I'm one
I
of those.
love
I just
Andy
don't get it.
Kaufman.
I love the movie Man on the Moon. That was a fantastic movie.
But that's because you liked it because of Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jim Carrey, that's the movie that made him lose his fucking mind, dude. Like legit. Like if you ever watch
talks
there's a
about it.
documentary on Netflix.
Yeah, the Andy Kaufman one, I saw it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but so I love Jim Carrey as Andy Kaufman. I just don't think that he was funny. Like I watch old shit, and it's not like I'm impervious because I can't laugh at old shit. There's a lot of old movies or old TV shows that I do like to watch, from the 70s and 60s. Gilligan's Island makes me laugh. Like I laugh out
That's
loud
still
at
funny.
that. It's still funny. I just don't get Andy Kaufman. I wish I did. He's kind of like the comedy version for me of what's his name? Ring of Fire guy. What's his name? What am I talking about? Musician.
Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash. I wish I loved Johnny Cash.
But-
I love the idea of Johnny Cash, the Man in Black, and that's a fucking cool ass.
And his following is rabid.
And his family.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to be one of those. And I listen to his music. I'm like, I don't get it. I just don't. I'm not a fan.
Oh, it's really
I like
sad.
like
I
three.
was
of-
actually just listening to Johnny Cash today.
I literally
Yeah.
like two. Maybe I'm gonna say 3 to be safe, but I know I like 2 of his songs. One of them is not his, but it's his, which
Which
is
one?
Ring of Fire.
Oh, well, yeah.
So I'm like, okay. And then the other one was the and the other one was the song that they used in Logan.
Oh yeah,
The one I just
Hurt.
Hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a Nine Inch Nails song.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Again.
Such a good
So I'm not like.
Although according to Trent Reznor,
it's
it's
not
not
a-
his song
yeah,
anymore.
exactly.
Oh, see, that's
He said
nice.
he said
Yeah.
it's a Johnny Cash song. He said
Yeah.
he did it way better than what he would have done. That he did.
Yeah, what's he gonna say? Fuck Johnny Cash. Like, what's that?
You just
It
did.
was
At that
really
point, no, I didn't
good.
say that. I said I wish I did. I wish I liked Johnny Cash. I wish I liked Andy Cash. I just don't get it.
Now,
Yet again, also picture, like I said, very impatient child. Freaking Latka.
yeah,
cracked me the fuck up. He grabbed my
as a
attention.
kid, Latka was my draw.
Yeah.
When I visited the show again, as much I still love Latka,
But it was everyone else.
Danny DeVito was it for
Yeah.
me. Him as Louis is
Mm-hmm.
like just one of the greatest TV characters of all time.
Yeah. There's
I
so many
think.
solid comedic actors on
Judd
that
Hirsch was
show.
fantastic on there too. Carol Kane, we talked about Simca. I mean,
Ted Danson.
Ted Danson.
Give the man his props.
Reverend Jim, you got Christopher Lloyd. He's just so out there. So like nothing
Yeah.
he says makes sense. And then you find out one like random episode that he just ate one space cake one time as a student in Harvard. And that was it. The rest of his life was set for him. And he's just like this burnt out fucking lunatic who's just he's the janitor there in the
Yeah.
He's hanging out with a teenager, building a time machine. Crazy, this guy.
But you're right. Dance is awesome on this too.
Yeah.
You know, to me, this is one of those shows that still holds up. And again, I haven't seen it in 10 or 15 years, but the last time I did see it, I was like, fuck, this is still funny. This is still really funny. and you have a cast that blew up after this, from Judd Hirsch to Danny DeVito, Christopher Lloyd. I mean, they all went on to Tony Danza. They all went on to become,
household names.
Yeah. I love the show. I wish there was a way for me to binge it again, because I think I looked for it and I couldn't find it anywhere. I don't even think you can purchase it. Like, it's got to be DVDs, and I don't buy DVDs anymore. It takes up too much space. But yeah, I love
you
the
could
show.
use for your action figures.
That's right.
As I stare at a library full of pop vinyls.
Yeah.
Funko Pops everywhere.
So yeah, man, Taxi. I'm really surprised that no one else put this on their mountain.
To be honest, it was on my mountain. Like, right before, like, nostalgia. Like, I just mean Mork and Mindy's really up there for me in terms of, like, because Robin Williams, to me, is so epic. But, like, Taxi is so strong for its cast. So strong. And I would class it above Cheers.
Yeah. I mean, I did.
No.
Okay.
All right.
Moving on.
All right. My number 3 is a personal favorite of mine.
That's why it's on your list. As they all should be personal favorites of yours, because this is your list.
Number 3.
You're right. 1984 to 1992, and it's Night Court.
That's one of the ones that got taken out, man. Me and you, we could have had the same mountain. I'm telling you, your 4 and 3 were 2 of the 3 that got cut from my list. So I love Night Court.
Still watch Night Court today when it's on TV, because I still find it on TV sporadically. I didn't know it ran for that long. Yeah.
As a kid, I watched it a lot, but when I went back to do this list, I was like, 84 to 92.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's a long fucking time, dude.
And it was such. I just loved the show. The idea that it was in the courtroom. Harry was like the fucking coolest judge in the world. I was like, man, if I get arrested, I want to fucking be in front of Harry. It didn't happen, but I would have loved to have been in front of Harry.
You wanna know a cool behind the scenes story? Harry is a comedian.
Yeah.
He's stand up, and he was touring a lot throughout that time before he got the show. And a guy that I worked with not too long ago used to travel with him all the time. They were just like comedians on the road. They would see each other all the time. And when he started to write about to get the show, he was like bubbling, about to get that next level. And he hated it. He was like, he's like, dude, I just want to, he's like, the moment I get a TV show, I'm just going to do my 5 years, whatever, and get the fuck out. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, because he just hated the road, being on the road so long. And then he got the TV show, and then after the TV show, he never went on the road again.
So he did what he said.
Exactly. Yeah. He got his money and just did. But I thought that was a cool story. I'm like, oh shit, that's fucking cool, man.
No, that's really and then you have the fucking cast of characters like Bull as the fucking
Bull was so great.
Yes,
that when I saw it, what else was he in? That was a scary movie. He was in a scary movie.
Yeah, Richard Mull.
Was that Poltergeist? What was he in?
I'll look right now.
I saw later on, after watching Night Court for so long, as a kid, I saw Richard Mull in something else, but it was like a
House.
Was it?
He was in House. He was in
yes. And I remember watching,
which is in the Family Shirt. It's fantastic.
Watching the movie, and I was just like, "That's not Bull." Like I was like, "That's not Bull. Bull's friendly and nice. This guy's scary."
He was also in Sorority Party Massacre.
Was he in Sorority Girls? Because that would be amazing.
Oh, if he was full circle. But then you had him. You had Dan, the fucking prosecuting attorney.
Great.
That
John
was a woman. John Larroquette.
Larroquette. There you go.
Close. Then
so
I don't remember her name. The other bailiff. Well, Diane. No,
Diane's
I had a
lawyer.
crush on Diane. But the other bailiff, the black girl, the black lady.
Fuck, I forgot her name. She was great.
She was great. Like the thing is, you had the cat, and then you had like the little old lady.
Yeah,
that worked there, too.
she passed away during the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why they changed her. Yeah, the show went through like a couple different bailiffs, and that's how you could tell.
It was on for a long time.
It was on for a long fucking time.
But it was just a fun show to me. And then you had the cast of characters. Gilbert Godfrey went through the show at one point.
And
Brett Spinner was on the show at one point. Like,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Like, it's just, you had a lot of these people, because since it was a court show, like, you could have all these people come in and do cameos as people that just got arrested.
These oddball characters,
And it was, I just thought it was a really fun show, and I really enjoyed.
And the theme song?
Roz. Her name was Roz.
There you go. That's what it was. Yes. And the theme song.
Oh no, it was Christine was the other attorney.
Oh, what did I say? Diane? Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Christine. But the theme song to Night Court was the shit. Do you guys remember that? You don't remember?
No, this is one that I did not see.
I never saw.
You never watched it?
I saw a
once,
handful
ever.
of episodes. Yeah, I do remember this. It's exactly what it needs to
And the thing is that he was a musician, Harry, so it played off of that. Like he was a jazz musician too. So like they
And a
played with it,
magician.
and a magician.
And he's actually a magician in real life.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, in real life, he's
That's true. He did do a lot of magic tricks on the show.
Not only that, but he is. Remember when the masked magician was doing his little runs where he was showing people how to do the tricks. Harry was the one that hosted the show where they calling him out, saying that they knew exactly who the magician was.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah. So my number 3 is Night Court. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend.
My parents were really into this show. So like the extent of my knowledge of it is from staying up late as a kid to watch this with them.
You never saw the show, Steph?
I've never ever in my life,
You never heard of it?
like, in passing, in like a list kind of way, and people
Right.
being like, "Oh, Night
Court's
Court," like
fantastic.
sure,
Night Court's
and like the
fantastic.
jingle,
Yeah.
like I know the jingle.
Okay.
But yet again, it's just one of those shows that has like a
When Bill
despistada, like young, like look at the shiny thing, like young kid. I was not gonna sit there and be like, that law makes sense. Like,
I object.
I object.
when Bill Clinton was on Family Guy, when he was playing the sax, that's the theme song that he played on the sax.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, like, weirdly enough, get a lot of the references to it. It's just one of the, like, one of the shows that people bring it up so much that you understand some of the references that get brought up. You just also are like, oh yeah, that thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
You should watch it. It's great. It's
It's
fantastic.
a cool show. If you can
fantastic.
if you can find it, it's
I think that one is on
Find
Hulu.
it.
well, if it
It
is,
doesn't get Hulu.
That's right.
well, good luck.
I like the fact that he's very manufactured.
Yeah.
That's accurate.
That's a correct statement.
I'll bring up Hulu at least another time or two.
Yeah.
So, Neri, what's your number 4 or 3? Sorry.
My number 3 is Different Strokes. Wow.
I
Nobody.
like
Guys,
this
there
show.
are
I do
so-
like
That
this show.
is great.
There are so many options that it's going to be really hard for us to have too many tables.
Don't take
I'd
this
be
as me not
surprised
liking the show.
If
I
Neri
do.
doesn't have the same
Yeah.
number 1, I do.
I doubt that we're gonna have the same number 1.
Really?
Yeah. So this is number.
I'm the
Yeah.
only one that has that as number 1. I'm gonna be
Different Strokes. I mean, what can I say?
best
man?
theme song. One of the best theme songs ever.
One of the best theme songs ever. It made nobody's career.
It killed off 2 of the.
Yeah,
actors.
I mean, the guy was off. What the guy that played Mr. To the beat
This
is
is a
just
great theme
one
song.
drum.
What
Might be right for you, might not be right for some.
A man is born.
He's a man of means.
Then
Along comes two.
They got nothing but the dreams.
Different strokes.
I'll just keep singing it. Through the world. Everybody's got.
What year was this? This was 82?
I wrote that on my list. Hold on. The year was 78 through 86.
Okay.
So
I was going to say, because that theme song's got like a 70s vibe to it, which makes sense now.
78 through 86. But I just love that show, and that's how
No, it's a
so
great
many
show.
episodes. I didn't know it ran for that long either. Again,
And
as a
it had
kid, you
some-
don't really put into,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
it's in syndication. By the time you're watching it, it's always on. It's just, it's always there.
yeah, I guess. I mean, it's just always on. It was always on. I even like the later seasons where Mr. German got married. First of all, Mr. German, awful father, horrific father, right? The guy, he brings up two drug addicts,
Yeah, a crackhead.
and then R.I.P. What's his name? But I even like the
There's a common denominator here.
yeah the latest. I saw the latest. Even the later seasons where he got married and they introduced a white kid. What's his name? Wesley? Was it Wesley?
No, it was Sam.
Sam.
And you know who
Wesley
that-
was the friend.
And you know who Sam grew up to be, right?
Who?
He had a stellar career after that. He was Bobby Butnick in Salute Your Shorts. And
the show, I don't know.
And what?
I don't know. Shorts. We've talked about this before. Just like I didn't watch.
It still doesn't hurt less hearing it again.
I didn't watch Temple, whatever the fuck, Temple Run. I
Legend
didn't
of the
watch.
Hidden Temple. Fuck yourself.
I didn't watch that show either.
What were you watching?
Not Nickelodeon.
Sadness.
I was watching Disney probably. Not
I was a
Nickelodeon.
Disney kid too, and I still knew these.
But you were Disney and Nickelodeon kid. I didn't. Nickelodeon wasn't a thing for me.
You might know him as
was like
John
90% Cartoon
as
Network.
John Connor's friend.
Yeah. No, I know.
Okay.
I know the face. I know the
Oh,
face.
okay.
That's what I thought you were gonna go with. I thought you, but you were
No,
like,
because
but you were so hyped up
more known
about it.
for
I'm like,
Bobby Butnick.
to you.
To the,
Hey man, I think I saw that kid you were looking for. Hey,
but yeah.
Is that your mom?
But yeah, and it's funny because his picture on IMDb is still him as a kid.
because that's the
That's
only way you
fantastic.
recognize him.
It's seriously still him as a little kid. Yeah.
That's sad.
It says born in 1975, but here's his photo.
Yeah, but yeah. So the later seasons where they brought Sam in, they started getting real serious. Like he got kidnapped.
Oh.
Sam got kidnapped for a whole like 4-episode arc. It was
wow.
yeah.
That's like a long time in TV.
land.
Like,
Maybe it was like 3 episodes. Who knows? But it was definitely more than
It's a
one.
month?
It was It was definitely more than. It was one of those like, well, what are they gonna do? Is Sam gonna be okay? And they would show Sam, and then they. I remember they finally found him because they were looking for him in the woods in a cabin, and they went to a general store, and he happened to be in the bathroom or whatever, and then they kind of just missed him. Where they asked a guy who kidnapped him, "Hey, have you seen this kid?" And he's like, "No. I hope you find him." And then they're like, "But that's but it was so not sitcom-y. It was like this is a time in the 80s and 90s where there were like that very special episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I love a very special episode.
I don't like very special episodes.
Do you not remember the episode where Gary Coleman
Dudley got touched at the bicycle shop.
Yeah.
That's the joke I was trying to make earlier. That this guy took very, very differently, and we took it in a different
'Cause he was
direction.
living it.
And I was like, yeah, he got touched at at a bicycle shop, and he's like, no, my friend molested him. Like, oh fuck, I was
There goes
joking.
that joke.
yeah.
But yeah, no, this guy tried to molested his friend.
Molested Dudley.
Yeah, and tried to molest him.
They were taking pictures, like, oh, take off your
Yeah,
show
take off your
muscles
shirt.
and blah blah and that stuff there.
Yeah.
Finding the right balance between the comedy and the drama.
I mean, it was hilarious because the kid had no muscles, and that was why it was funny. I was like, it's hilarious.
Classic body.
He's making him take off his shirt, but he has.
And
Yeah.
another thing that this show did was Mrs. Garrett
Mrs. Garrett.
for Facts later on Facts of Life.
She left the show. She was the maid. She was the first maid, and she left the show to start her own spin-off, which is Facts of Life. And it was originally called something else, right? If I'm not mistaken, it was called
The
Miss
Truth
Garrett's
Hurts.
Place or something like that.
Yeah, I have no.
Or was that the end? I think it was Facts of Life first, and then when they all grew up, it was called Miss Garrett's Place.
I'll check right
and
now.
when she did like it was like it was the same basic show, but some people didn't want to come back. So then it took place where she owned a cookie shop or bakery or some shit. I don't remember. Something along those lines. But it's kind of like if you follow that lineage from different strokes, you could kind of follow it.
happens not infrequently.
Not back in the day.
But do you think like shows nowadays could like pull that off that well?
Well, they tried
tried
to.
with Joey, but
Well,
yeah.
they tried to do it with The Office. The Office had a show, had one episode with Dwight where he ran the Beat Shoot. The
Shoe Farm.
the Shoe Farm Hotel, and that was supposed to be the backdoor pilot to his own show.
Yeah.
And it didn't pan out. They were like, no. I'm glad it didn't, because I was like, that doesn't seem like it has legs.
Yeah, no, I was
Because-
not excited about that at all.
Yeah.
He only works in those fish out of water scenarios.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He can't be that guy.
Right.
He's a great number 2.
Right.
Yeah.
He's a great.
I mean, that's kind of what the show
yeah,
showed.
he's a great assistant to the
yeah.
main TV star. You can't be.
It's funny.
It's a layered
You should
joke.
consider humor.
Well, let's not rush into anything. So yeah, anyway, so I love Different Strokes. It was great. I remember when Kimberly got amnesia, and Mr. Drummond got amnesia. He had amnesia.
You're right.
He had amnesia, and then he remembered Kimberly first, and then they felt
'Cause of the
like.
meth.
See, this makes sense that it's higher up on your list because you are being able to rattle off just storyline.
Yeah,
after
and then
storyline.
there were so many as a kid that I was like, oh my god, I just love this fucking show. Like, there's so many episodes.
Whose list was this right now? Was this you? Was this him?
This is my list. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I fucking love this. Like, there's so many episodes. I remember there was one episode where what's his name? I can't remember this guy's the brother.
Todd Bridges.
Yeah, but his character. What's his character's name?
Willis.
Duh.
I mean,
yeah. What you talking about? Yeah, I get it. All right, my bad. Sorry. So Willis.
I think it was Bob.
Willis is old enough to remember his parents. Their parents that died, right? And he was really good at remembering things like every year that the Yankees won, or every manager that the Yankees ever had, except for 1978, which was a year that his dad died.
No.
But he doesn't know that. He doesn't know that so he's rattling off all these things, and then the tutor, which is the cool tutor, who's like, "Hey man, I'm just like you. Let me sit down because I'm gonna sit down with the chair backwards to show you that I'm one of you guys."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'm wearing a jean vest jacket to show you that I'm cool from the streets, but I'm also a tutor, man." And then so that guy, he was rattling off all the managers that the Yankees had, and he's like, "All right, Slick, that was real cool, but you missed 1978." And it just happened to be that he was having trouble in school because for some reason there was a mental gap. He was blocking out that entire year. And yeah, and it wasn't even a special episode. That was just one of those episodes where I was like, "Oh man, that's so cool." I'm pretty sure, I don't know what year it was, but I'm pretty sure I got the year right on that one. Anyways, that's where I learned that New York was bought from the Indians, from different shows. Manhattan, the island of Manhattan was bought from Native Americans.
The Algonquin Indians.
Right.
Yeah.
And I
Do
learned
you
that
remember that from the TV show?
Yeah, absolutely.
TV used to be fun and educational.
Yeah. It's still fun and educational. What? Have you seen The Biggest Loser? But yeah, so I just love this fucking show. I love so many things about it. You want to talk about catchphrases? That might be the biggest catchphrase
we're
of all
talking
time.
about Willis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not familiar.
Oh yeah.
Nope. This is ringing a bell.
That doesn't.
Sorry.
So,
I'm aware.
but I love everything about that show. And it hurt me. That was one of those shows where when everything in real life started falling apart for these guys, I was old enough to be like, "Oh no, that's one of my." I don't want to say a hero, but fuck, I liked you a lot.
Yeah, I really want you to not stop.
Yeah, I don't.
Shouldn't do that.
More drugs, huh? All right.
Oh, we're doing that.
All right. Somebody didn't. Oh, they had Nancy Reagan as a guest
Really?
in one of the episodes as Nancy Reagan. She was the vice president. She was the president's wife.
Remember, it was a white
and she
person's
was
home.
when they started doing. it's when they started the DARE program, and she was a huge advocate for the war on drugs. And she was in that episode
How did that
where
turn
she
out?
was talking about say no to drugs, and it was ironic because years later I was like, Nancy Reagan told you no, Willis, and you still went and did it. Like it was. Yeah, it's fucking great.
If you do it, even when the first lady tells you not to.
Yeah.
In your face.
Yeah.
Well, when different first ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a different time.
Different time when first ladies didn't appear naked in Playboys.
Oh.
Go ahead.
You want to recap the number threes?
Number threes are Three's Company, Three's Taxis, Three's Night Courts. No, I'm kidding. Three's Company, Taxi, Night Court, and Different Strokes. So
This is gonna be very complicated, Mountain.
number
We're
2.
gonna go through the same thing at the end when we're making the final Mountain to be like, I don't know.
Well, you just pick your number 1.
I guess.
You gave us that rule, by the way.
That's
I
not a
did.
bad rule.
Yeah. Whenever there's too much fights, when all the picks are different, we did a music episode, and when all the picks
Oh,
are
yeah.
different,
Well, we already know
we all
that
just go with
there's-
number 1s.
We already know there's one repeat.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, serious.
All right.
All right, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is A Different World because it did start in the 80s. It was a spin-off of a different show,
But
and
the
it's
majority
an
of the-
even split. And it's an
Hold
even
on, because
split.
she said even
Yeah.
split last time, and
Yes.
the math was
no,
off.
because each season premieres as an even split. 3 of the seasons premiere in the 80s. 3 of the seasons premiere in the 90s.
Can somebody
And then the
with a
ratings
calculator,
weren't,
can
and the
somebody with a
ratings
calculator?
weren't as high.
Trust
towards
but
the tail
verify.
end.
It's a different world.
Go to Wikipedia and see the premiere dates.
1987 to 93.
87, 88,
89.
89, 90. What? 87 to 87, 88, 89.
Then you have 90, 91, 92, 93.
But
That's
93
4
it
years.
ended. It didn't premiere in 93.
What are you talking about?
I mean, the season didn't premiere in 93. The season premiered. It had ended for the season that premiered in 92.
Okay, if you want to do like significant math, it premiered in September of '87
Look at the season.
to July of
I don't understand why
1993.
it's so difficult for her, Dave.
Neither Stephanie knows how to do math. What are the odds?
Don't ask
Very
them.
good.
Don't ask them.
Very good.
Don't ask them that.
That is so many guess stars.
The odds are 11-4.
First aired 87, 88, 89, and then 90, 91, 92.
Yes, but it ran into 93.
But it ran into 93.
But
It's not about when. It's not about when it debuted. It's how
The
long did it
final
run.
episode
I'm saying-
aired July 9, 1993.
But it premiered.
But it's not about when it premiered. It's about how many seasons. How many? Not when did it start. It's when.
I say it's an even split. I say it's an even split, and that last season was shit.
That last season.
You can't erase the season.
You can when you look
Trust
at the
me,
ratings. Look
Parks
at
and
the
Recs wants
Oh
it.
well, you do
Look
make
at the
you
Nielsen
do
ranking.
make a point.
Like
yeah.
no one was watching it. It just held on for another season. When freaking Whitley and Dwayne got married, no one
I
kept
love that season. First of all, that wedding was the shit.
You fucking would.
Yes, it
That
was.
wedding
but
was the
you didn't
shit.
keep watching
That
for that
wedding.
long
Did you see that
afterwards.
wedding?
I've watched all of A Different World.
That wedding was the shit, right? When he was like, "Fucking baby, please." And she
It was
like-
made for
and she
me.
goes,
Hello.
"Yes," and she was like, "Yes," and then he was like, and the priest goes, "But to who?" Oh, and then she turned around and fucking said yes to Dwayne Wade. I was like, "Oh shit!"
Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne Wayne.
Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne Cleophas Wayne. I still remember.
I think this is a show that actually genuinely is an even split between the 80s and the 90s.
Oh, no,
Down
but
to style.
I understand that you think that, but there's actual math and numbers that are factual.
This is like that you don't live in Australia, you live in a plot of land in the Amazon in South
Then
America.
I should be getting paid more.
What does that have to
I
do
don't
with
know.
the poor math to the-
Steph, I love you.
You could just tell her she's
and
getting
I
paid
love
more.
the show, but there's no like.
Just let her. Just
I
let
just-
it go.
go
Just
on.
let it go.
I don't want
Let it
All right,
go.
man, whatever, man. It's not the
A
Jetsons.
different world.
To be honest, if I don't have
Go
a different world, I'm just sticking taxi in there.
All right, go ahead. Go
Oh
ahead.
yes!
No.
No, it doesn't count.
Go
No.
ahead.
Damn it!
Go ahead.
I tried.
Speak your different world math logic.
I think it genuinely is an even split.
The
Oh
fact that
my
you
God.
honestly believe that is amazes me. It's
I
cute.
want you
It's
to. I
adorable.
want you to take a second. Look, lift up your sunglasses.
The flip.
And keep dress your glasses. Keep dress your glasses
There's
and
your
flip to
glasses.
the sunglass
Oh,
part.
Dwayne.
Sinbad was on that show. So
Ron
amazing.
That's very 80s.
Ron Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that show. I love that show.
No, it's
Yeah,
That
it is
show
good.
was
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
the
influential.
quality of the show. I'm
Yeah.
not arguing.
It's
that at
it's
all.
not.
Dean Cain was in an episode where
Yeah.
he was a racist football player.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He's got
that's
that
tainted
look.
things for me.
Well,
He's got that look.
it's
White?
He's super
Yeah. You know,
Caucasian.
yeah.
No offense, babe. No offense.
We love you, Dave. But
No, we
if
love
somebody
We
later on goes,
didn't say you were racist.
no, but if later on somebody goes, hey, you know that guy that Steph was dating for a long time? Yeah, he turned out to be racist. We'd be like, oh fuck.
Oh.
All right, and then you just move on. Like it wouldn't be like, no. You'd be like, oh. All right. Well, that happened. So
And then
different world.
Vernon, the cafeteria guy.
I just also
very
noticed
was
that right now
awesome.
with everyone arguing and Dave going, hey, and all of us turning to him, that's the first time Dave's ever had all the Latinos look at him at once and be like, what?
Oh, Jada Pinkett.
Yep.
It was Lena.
Towards the end of the season.
Colonel Brad Taylor. He was the
The guy that's in CSI. The guy that was in the
I
original
don't even have to
CSI
defend it.
was in that show too. He was the
Yeah?
guy with the dreads.
Oh,
He's the black guy in a
I
different
always
role.
forget.
thanks.
always
Yeah.
forget his name.
that narrows it
Thanks.
down. Hold on. Now that you said it that way, I can find him. Marissa Tomei was on it. Oh, Gary Durden.
Yeah.
He was Shaza. Shaza Zulu.
Right. He ended up being with what's her name?
With Jada Pinkett.
Yep.
Wasn't it?
No, it was the.
Wasn't Jada Pinkett?
No, it was the other chick. No.
Charmaine?
Yeah, I think so.
I kept trying to think about why it is that I remembered more about A Different World than the other ones on my list, and it's because it's a 90s show.
Yeah.
It's not.
Now,
Damn.
it makes
It
sense.
is a clear cut both. It is so influenced by the late 80s.
Oh, and that's where we're going with now. Influence.
There we go.
We went from Nielsen ratings to influence.
Look, I'm not about to put like freaking Miami Vice on.
I don't care. It's fine. It's your show. It's your
And
list.
there was
You
a
do you, boo.
There was a crossover. Well, because it was a crossover.
Oh, it's a spinoff.
Right, the spinoff, but the characters, because Claire Huxtable did make an appearance.
Well, they actually made an appearance also on the Cosby Show as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
But yeah, they all lived in the same universe. It was
Yeah.
a clear. Yeah, like I was saying, like I'm not
She said
putting.
black
Yeah,
universe.
they lived in
I'm
the same
not.
universe in the 80s.
I
It
can
was
still.
Cos-
But I'm saying like exactly.
It was Cosby.
Yeah.
It was a different world. It was Wakanda. They were all in the same in the same universe. Yeah.
That'd be a lovely universe.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like I can't
Sinbad
put
forever.
one of the other ones on my list. Like for me, I liked the progression of it. I do actually genuinely admit that I liked A Different World more when the Huxtables actually weren't that much of a part of it.
Well, they
Like,
were
when
only a
the
part of it a
sisters
couple episodes. There was like the introduction.
You liked
Just
everything
setting
else
it
but
up.
the
Yeah,
two
just
episodes.
setting it up. Yeah.
Pretty much. Well, no, because like the daughter, I always forget her name. The daughter,
Lisa Bonet.
Lisa Bonet's pretty. No, but her
Mrs.
actual,
Momoa?
her actual, yes, the really very pretty Bonet. What is her actual character's name? I always forget.
Oh, Denise.
Denise. Yes.
Huxtable, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So like Denise, I always liked Denise and everything. Okay, but like she
was
wasn't my favorite part
as
of the
an
show.
actress. She was kind of aloof. That's why they gave her own show because she had star power, but
Mm-hmm.
she kind of was phoning it in on the Cosby Show. So they were like, but she had star power.
Yeah.
So then they gave her the show, and then one of her things was like, I just don't want to do with the Cosby Show. So
I remember thinking,
Yeah,
like,
right
as a kid, I remember thinking, like, she is gorgeous.
Yeah.
I didn't think that then.
Really?
Not then. Not then.
Beautiful.
Now I
Yeah.
think she's beautiful. I acknowledge she's beautiful now. It wasn't my
And
cup
she
of tea
just
then.
decided to stop aging.
I used to think Jasmine Guy was hot, and I mean that's clearly not the thing now. I would not. I don't believe that now. Jasmine Guy,
Whitley, bro.
Whitney.
Whitley.
Oh yeah.
Whitney.
Whitley.
Whitley Gilbert.
Yeah, I used to think she was hot, but then that's clearly media influencing me. Like she's supposed to be the hot one. So
She's more glamorous.
So I thought that she was hot, and then as I got older, I was like, no, I don't like that. That's not my type at all.
Yeah, it's definitely Denise. Like Denise is definitely.
Not really. None of them. They were both too thin for me. For
Well,
my
she
taste
was thin,
now,
yeah.
they're both very thin. Beautiful face, both of them. Especially Lisa Bonet has an
I like
amazing
Charmaine.
face, but I like curves. So Rubenesque.
What TV shows actually had women with like that kind of body type?
Designing women. Honorable mention. Just saying.
I was expecting you to table yourself.
Table. We'll talk about designing women.
Well, we did talk about the maid in Different Strokes, so
Yeah.
I mean, there's that.
That's true. Mrs. Garrett. Yeah, she had some curves too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a mountain.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. So Different Stroke is your number 2, David.
My number
No,
two.
Different World.
Different
Or
World.
Different World.
yeah.
Sorry.
I don't fight about it.
But this may be the show that I think ran for the longest time in the 80s.
MASH. No,
The 80s?
That 80s show.
Did I show you my list before the show?
was
No,
an
it's Newhart.
Yes, I actually see. Remember how before I was saying that I couldn't pay attention to many things? For some reason, Bob Newhart always got me.
Always,
Like,
and
as a little
I
kid.
know what it is for me. It's his voice. There's something about his voice that
yeah.
immediately draws me to the television because I was really young when the show was on. I caught most of it on reruns. My grandfather is a huge Bob Newhart fan, and put a gun to my head, I'll tell you that the Bob Newhart show was better than Newhart.
doesn't everybody say that though?
Yeah.
Isn't that a universal? I don't
Is
think-
it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I always assumed people preferred Newhart.
No, I think, and again, I didn't watch any of these shows, but I think from like
Newhart's
the way TV goes is like oh, he has another show called New. Like it was like he was trying to recapture the same thing that the Bob
Right.
Newhart show had,
Well, Cosby did the same thing.
right? Which again, the second Cosby Show universally gets the
Right.
from like everybody acknowledges that it's like no, this is not the original.
I definitely remember more about Newhart than I do the Bob Newhart show. Mm-hmm. And
That's just timing,
It
I
feels
think.
it's the timing, yeah, and it feels very 80s. Whereas like the Bob Newhart show feels decidedly 70s. Like there's something very 80s about this show. Like it premieres in 82, and you can always kind of make that argument that like the decade doesn't really kick in until about 3 or 4 years in, where like
That's what I'm saying about Different Worlds. So that's fair.
The fashion sense, the music,
Yeah.
the stylings don't, really change until, 83.
Yeah.
Then it starts to feel more 80s. But to me, like these characters
Yeah,
are
but they're also
so
still adults in the 80s. So I feel like sometimes it's different than when you're watching like a show with like teens in the
Right.
80s. Like you'll see that the style and the music and everything will reflect, and the stylings reflect more on like younger shows than like adult shows. Are they're dealing with like dialogue and situations and stuff like that. Like it's a little more universal.
And I think this show particularly appealed more to a younger audience than the Bob Newhart show did, because to me there's something that only this show and I think Parks and Rec have ever been able to get is what I like to call the Springfield effect, which is where the people that inhabit this town are so incredibly outlandish. Like they would never exist in any world.
Right.
That's why I love Parks and Rec.
Right. Yeah. There's a magic about Parks and Rec. Like these characters, particularly the side characters.
Right.
They're so crazy. They're so out of this world. They're bonkers. But that's what makes the show.
Yeah.
You buy and the more the show leans into this like ridiculous world that these even more ridiculous characters inhabit, the funnier it becomes.
Right.
It is like what made the original show great, which was the psychology about it, right? He was way too smart for everyone else, and he was always like that bummer, and like he bummed everyone out, and just seeing him try to interact with people like Frasier, right? Seeing him interact with normal people, that's what this show did that the other one didn't, where like it took him out of like, okay, here's normal people, interact with them, here's crazy people,
try to function around
him, and he's like this very level-headed writer who like just constantly loses his cool.
Yeah.
And seeing him have these like meltdowns as a kid was,
I think that's why it was easier for us to grab at that age.
Yeah.
Too. We could understand just being like, what?
right. And then of course what is maybe the greatest finale of all time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I remember the first time that I saw this, because I saw this and Bob Newhart at the same time because they were on reruns anyway.
Yeah.
So I was familiar with both the different shows, and I was old enough to understand that this show came first, this one came second. And seeing him wake up next to, like, I immediately recognized the set.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not his bedroom.
Yeah.
That's the other show. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? I didn't, obviously use that language as a kid, but you see the set, you recognize it, but like nothing had ever been done like that before. Like even when I was watching this in like, 93, 94, whenever I'm watching it in syndication, this was a totally new idea, not just because I'm young and I'm not that used to ideas.
Before or after that?
What?
Because what's another show? I'm thinking about another show like it's like it was all a dream kind of thing, or like.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it was a season though, right? It wasn't the whole thing.
No, wasn't that the finale? I think
Was that the finale?
That was the finale, yeah. That the whole
okay.
last season had been a dream. Yeah.
Yeah.
That they killed
That
John
was a season's
Goodman
worth.
and all of that, yeah.
That was like a season's worth was a dream, whereas I think in Newhart the whole thing.
The whole thing was, yeah.
a
He
dream.
had been hit by a golf ball, and that's why the whole thing about the
Him,
company buyout of and turning it into a golf course, like it all of a sudden makes sense. And then when you put it in the context of the original show, now you start to understand why these characters are so ridiculous and they're so outlandish, and why he constantly loses it because he doesn't feel like he needs to control his impulse the way that he does as a psychologist, right? He can just let loose and be that crazy person.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that the show did fantastically. I haven't seen it.
It also says a lot about him if those people just inhabit his brain.
Right. Yeah. So there's probably been like 10 or 15 years since I've seen a single episode of this show. But it's one of those shows that has always stuck with me, and Bob Newhart will always be one of those comedians that I hold near and dear to my heart, particularly because I grew up watching everything that he did.
His face just gets me, man.
Yeah.
Well, and him interacting with Don Rickles is like my favorite thing ever.
Him on what's his name? Call it Big Bang Theory.
It's fantastic.
Oh yeah, he's great on the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
That way he comes back as a Jedi.
Yeah.
It's great.
So I don't know what I'm saying.
His character is like one of those like Bill Nye the Science Guy, TV science guy.
And he was like Sheldon's idol.
Right. He was the influence for him to become a physicist in the
Okay.
first place.
His character dies during the show.
You meet him once or twice.
Yeah, you meet him
before
once
this,
or twice,
yeah.
maybe 3 times before, and then he a couple of seasons later he dies, but he comes back in the hologram form of a Jedi. Because to Sheldon, that's how he's dealing with death is, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I hate that show.
It started off so strong.
Did it?
I think so. I think it did. I legitimately loved the first couple of seasons of that show.
I watched. My wife and I hated that show for a long time, and then we binged every episode up until like maybe 3 seasons ago, and we haven't. It's just life got in the way, but we did enjoy it when we binged it. We did enjoy it. It did take us a bit to get over a lot of things, but once we got into it, and it was good for a sitcom. But it's like what everybody makes fun of sitcoms for. It has everything.
Yeah. And I think it's gone on too long. There was this thing where like it just life got in the way, and I had been watching it since it had started airing, as it was airing, and life got in the way maybe 2-3 seasons ago, and we just didn't keep up with the show, and I didn't feel anything.
Well, yeah, that's exactly,
And I was like, oh, okay, so I guess it wasn't as good as I thought it was, because if it really was, I would go out of my way to finish watching the show. But he was fantastic.
Yeah.
He was fantastic on that show. So Newhart. Newhart is my number 2.
All right. Real quick side note, just got a message here that on January 25th, there is in Fort Lauderdale, there will be a movie screening of Flash Gordon. The event is Flash Gordon and grilled cheese screening event.
Are they going to use
2 things I love.
Yeah. He's speaking right to my heart, man. So January 25th in Fort Lauderdale, if you are in the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area.
No, won't
Flash.
be.
Cool.
Grilled cheese of the universe.
I saw Flash Gordon for the first time like 2 years ago.
Did you?
Remember? No, you don't remember.
No, I don't remember.
But I texted you and I was like, I'm watching it for the first time, and we were having a conversation about it. And I was
That
like,
movie is so bad it's good.
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's bad. I go, oh, this is great. But
I genuinely enjoy that movie.
I do genuinely enjoy the movie. But I not when somebody goes, that movie sucks, I'd be like, I can see.
No, I see it.
I see where
which is why I always say it's so
I see
bad
your
it's
point.
good. Like it's cheesy. It's
I don't think
campy,
it's bad, but when somebody says it's bad, I'm like, hey man.
I see it.
Yeah, okay. Not gonna argue. Practical effects are-
I'm never gonna defend, whether that movie is good or not. Now, enjoyable. I fucking love that movie.
But I did see it after Ted. After the movie Ted.
That could probably do something for it.
So now I like it more because I'm like,
Was
oh,
he
this
at
guy's
the con?
fucking nuts. Not an Archon.
Not a year. The year before he was there, the Flash Gordon.
All right, so
My number 2.
your number two.
Yeah.
Is going to be tabled. It's Golden Girls.
Table.
I don't find Golden Girls really. The few episodes I've seen were fucking so serious that I was like, how is this funny?
Did you come across a special episode?
Well, save it.
Yeah.
So my number 2 would be my number 1, except for the fact that my number 1 is legitimately one of the greatest TV shows of all time. But my number 2 has such a special place in my heart. My wife and I binged it maybe 7 years ago when before Sophie was born, before our daughter was born. So and I made her watch it, and she got into it, and she was like, "Oh, this is like," she had never heard of it. She never did. And to this day, I will put this in my mountain of sitcom intro songs of all time. Is Charles in Charge.
Honorable mention for me.
I love that fucking show.
Scott Baio, you dreamboat.
You dreamboat that then ends up being a fucking lunatic in real life. Whatever. I'm telling you, it hurts my feelings when I would see Scott Baio. I was such a fan of Charles in Charge that
Because
when Scott Baio had that TV show on VH1 called Scott Baio, whatever it was,
Knows It All,
42 and pregnant, 42 and single, where he was trying to figure out if he wants to get married. I bought that show on iTunes. Bought it.
Oh my
Legit
God.
bought it. And I also bought the next season, which was Scott Baio's, whatever the age was, like one more year, like 43 and pregnant, when him and his wife were expecting. And I fucking I was such a fan of Charles in Charge that I became a fan of Scott Baio. And then when the last election happened, he was such a fucking nut.
Yeah.
And he would go on such rants that I was like, I'm out, man. I can't do this anymore. My love for something 80s is not that deep.
Right.
Like, I can't even do that. So, yeah. Charles in Charge, fucking fantastic. The story of it going on for, I think, 1 or 2 seasons, if I'm not mistaken, then being canceled, and then going on a hiatus for like 3 or 4 years, and then they brought the show back, and then when they brought it back, it was with a whole different cast. But when they brought it back, the story was that they were switching, that the house was switching families. He had gone off to college, and the house was switching. I don't know what the fuck it was. They were switching. The house had been bought, and that first episode of that new season of that new series, it was kind of like they literally had the old actors that were playing the kids before, and then they had the new actors. So it was like handing off of the baton type of deal.
Right.
But it didn't miss a beat. I thought Buddy was great.
Buddy was a fucking amazing character.
Great. And I my introduction to both Scott Baio and Buddy, which I don't know his real name, but it's Buddy, was from Zapped.
Willie Ames is his
Willie Ames, that's right. Is from Zapped. Willie Ames was also on a reality show on VH1 where he's trying to lose weight, and he was on the show with if I'm not mistaken, with Rafi May. If I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that same season was Rafi May.
He was also in 8 is Enough. That's where he started before Charles in Charge.
Yeah, I never watched that show, but fucking Charles in Charge, and the fucking that song, Charles in Charge of our days and our nights. Dun, dun, dun. Anyways,
And
so
Nicole Egger had the biggest crush.
oh yeah,
She was smoking hot.
was.
Yeah.
I'm sure she still is.
Well, we don't know. Let's hold off. Some women age like bread and not wine.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Some people.
No, she's still
Some
hot.
people age like bread. Is
No, that was more
better?
of a reaction of like, that's painfully accurate.
Well, that's actually not my joke. That's actually,
yeah.
She's
still hot.
What year was that though? 'Cause that could be like 2008. So let's be fucking real. It's 2018. So that's not my joke. That's more like that's a take on Patrice O'Neal's joke where he says pussy ages like bread, not like wine. So it's kind of a take on his joke. Well, it is a take on his joke. So, but Charles in Charge, I thought was fantastic. Willie Ames played the perfect idiot, and all the girlfriends that Charles had were fucking smoking hot.
Yeah.
As it should be, because he was a dreamboat.
God.
I hadn't
did
seen
think so back in the day.
I hadn't seen Nicole Eggert in many years. Probably since, was it Baywatch, right? Yeah, she was on Baywatch.
Yeah.
And I put on the old Super Mario Brothers cartoon show for Link
that's right.
recently.
That's
and
right.
she's on that first episode.
Yeah,
so I
right.
put it on for Link, and there's Nicole Eggert, and I was like, oh, hang on a second. I had to like turn over. I had to hide.
Oh shit.
Hide myself from my son.
Rue McCallaghan was in. Rue McCallaghan was in.
Was she?
Which she was on Charles in Charge.
Huh.
So was Christina Applegate, Meg Ryan.
Meg Ryan.
Look, Egger was most recently a contestant on VH1's reality show Celebrity Fit Club, which was a show that Willie Ames was on. That was Celebrity Fit Club. Was one of the
Matthew Perry.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know Matthew Perry had been on that.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll
there you
get
go.
caught into like fun fact trivia.
Yeah. So anyway, but anyways, Charles in Charge was a great fucking show. Man, that doesn't look great either.
What?
Well, that's 2017. Okay.
Who?
I mean, you know.
Is it?
Yes. How old is this person?
Yeah.
Probably
yeah.
been-
She was born in 72, so she's 46.
Yeah, looks great.
Mm-hmm.
She looks good for 36.
Oh shit! With okay, I don't know how many people would get
38?
this. I know Christy would. She said she was born in 72, so 40.
40.
What?
No, wait.
She's
40.
46.
No,
That math doesn't add up.
I'm having Steph math
Yeah,
right
what
now.
are you
Sorry.
doing right now? It's 46. Are you counting the age that the Nielsen rating went down? Because that doesn't count. That year doesn't count.
You agreed with me.
No. No.
I agreed on the aging thing where the episode gets shitter as it runs. So the heyday years were the earlier years.
But the heyday was the 80s, so you agreed it should go on my list.
That wasn't the parameters, though.
Talking about the math. If it's purely on math, then I guess.
Oh, you turncoat. You turncoat.
The whole, if it's good in one era, it is that era rather than.
Yeah, I think it was good in the 80s.
But that's not what you said. You said that there are three, that the years were split down the middle. That's what you.
They still are. They still do premiere.
That's not the way it works.
What I'm saying is, you're not right.
Okay.
Just call it fake news and move on.
All right, so Charles in charge of our days and our nights.
Just saw a Christmas. I
Our
just
wrongs
watched
and
a
our rights.
Christmas
Do you
movie
remember
the other day that had fake news as a joke in it. And that was amusing and painful all at once.
do you remember the movie Summer School?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, you remember
The teacher that had the rad t-shirt in the
That
shirt,
dreamboat
the-
teacher?
and that shirt, the Hawaiian.
and the dog.
Yeah. of course.
Okay, you remember the two
With the
guys?
convertible?
The two, yeah,
Yeah, of course.
The two guys that were like the horror movie guys, the blonde and it
Yeah.
was Chrissy's gonna kill me if she's listening.
She's not
from Rockula. Fuck, what's his name? But either way, the blonde guy was also on Charles in Charge. Apparently, he was had some roles in it. I'm gonna look up Rockula before Christy kills me.
Dean Cameron?
Dean Cameron.
There you go.
Do you feel like she's always there with you?
like gas. No, I'm just kidding. Love you, honey.
Christy
Love
in
you.
charge of your days and your nights.
All right, so
Yeah.
Charles in Charge. All right, so what's the recap?
So the recap goes Different World with an asterisk, Newhart, Golden Girls, and Charles in Charge.
All right, so number one, I guess we can talk about it now for Dave. And,
honorable mentions.
oh, honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Yes.
There should be about 20 million honorable
Million.
mentions.
Did you
Yeah.
post this?
No.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so my
I
honorable
just
mention.
told
did we-
one of our panelists 3 hours ago.
You're
What
right.
makes you think I would
Did we last week, though? I feel like we did last week.
No.
Did we last
No,
week?
no, we just talked about it to death last week, so that's
Yeah.
why no. It wasn't posted.
Okay.
Okay, so
Good.
honorable mentions.
Honorable.
Okay, so honorable mentions for me would have been Growing Pains.
Mm-hmm.
Family Ties for giving us Michael J. Fox.
Okay.
Family Ties is
Taxi.
still a great show.
Yeah.
They play that
Yeah.
on the ships every once in a while. They'll play the same 4 episodes. I'm like, yeah, this is fucking good.
Yeah.
I still prefer Growing Pains over Family Ties.
Well, I mean, that's
Personally.
not apples to apples, but okay, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like family kind of.
Oh,
vibe
so anything with a
happens-
family? Anything with
No,
a
family mostly happens within the house. Like I
The
don't
thing
know,
is,
like
Growing
it has
Pains
the,
was
like-
general issues and growing pains of having kids.
yeah.
Family Ties was more, we've got two hippie parents and conservative kids, and a really hardcore conservative kid, and dealing with that
Fun.
difference.
Yeah.
So,
fair.
yeah.
It's fair, but oh yeah, and then my other ones were for sure Taxi, and then an asterisk. I put Cosby Show because I can't.
That's what gets an
rewatch it
asterisk?
now.
Not the fact
Well,
that you
'cause I
missed
can't
math.
That's
I
but that's
can-
actually an 80s show.
That's a legit 80 show.
Yeah.
But I can't. I just
Okay.
can't.
Oh,
I
okay,
can't
that's a
rewatch
different-
it.
it's a whole
I
different
can't
animal.
rewatch it. But my whole
All right.
the asterisk is because I honestly I can't revisit it. I can't rewatch it without being
Drink your
disgusted.
water.
It
Get
Frank.
it? Get it?
truthfully, that I can't knock you for that because I was really torn between the Golden Girls and the Cosby Show, and when I found myself thinking
not a
about
mountain.
both, I was like, I can look back on Golden Girls fondly, whereas
Yeah.
Whereas you could look back at one of them and fondle.
Good night, everybody.
And with that, the podcast is over.
Fuck, that was great. Fuck, you should do comedy.
So the Cosby Show is relegated to honorable mention. Cheers, Blackadder, which we talked about previous to recording, and often not talked about.
So Faulty Towers landed in your.
It's 70s.
Yeah, 70s. Yeah.
Well, if you only count the years that you want to count, and then if you take away the majority of the numbers, and then you put in the years that you want, and then twist and bend the numbers to your will, you can.
Right there.
So my
3, 2, 1, and
He's such an idiot.
so now Faulty Towers. And then my last honorable mention is one that is very difficult to find unless you go to YouTube.
Okay.
And it lasted for 6 episodes and gave us one of the greatest slapstick comedies of all time, and it's Police Squad.
But when did the last one air?
That's unimportant. It's when the first one aired.
But
Right.
when did the last one air?
Yeah.
I still think my math.
No.
It's fine.
Oh, okay,
right.
'cause I thought,
All
math was a sentient being,
Yeah.
math would be shaking its head.
You know who doesn't think that? Math.
That's not the way.
Math became a sentient being.
If math was a sentient being, math would be shaking its head right now. Like, no,
All
no,
right,
that's not the way I work.
I've Charles in charge.
Yeah,
Growing
they're like,
Pains.
no,
Who's the boss?
that's not the way I work.
And then
That's
since
me
I
saying
never
it
listened to Neri, high five. Mr. Belvedere. And I don't give a fuck because I love this show, Mama's Family.
Love that show.
Belvedere.
I've never seen it.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Never seen it.
You never seen Mama's Family?
I feel like you guys were
Love that
watching
show.
one
Why would you?
station that I just completely missed. Because half the things you guys mentioned, you're like, oh, it's such a good show. I'm like, what is
You
this?
never seen Mr. Belvedere?
No.
Oh my!
It's fantastic. You've never seen Mr. Belvedere?
Well, Steph, you and I are the same age, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Wow. It's,
Well, they're
it's
5 years
fantastic.
older.
It was.
Oh, damn it,
So
man.
yeah, it does make a difference.
Yeah, just rerun wise, like schedule TV scheduling and stuff
Right.
like that. Yeah, it does.
I totally get it. But you were watching Taxi, which started in the 70s.
Make it nice.
But it also ran for longer. It was in syndication.
I totally get it.
for
But you were
longer.
watching Taxi, which started in the 70s.
But it also ran for longer.
Night Court.
Court from 84 to
Nothing ran for longer than. What's the other one?
I heard.
Night Court
Well,
from
Mama's
84 to
Family had
92.
like it had
She
Vicki
didn't watch
Lawrence
that.
was the
Never
main
heard of it.
so good.
character. She was Mama.
That felt like that was a Carol Burnett.
Well, Carol
She was
Burnett was
so
on the
good.
show. It was a character I think that they
She
did on the
was
Carol
she
Burnett
was
show.
she, that was
Mama
I
was
felt like that was a Carol Burnett. Yeah, yeah, but
I thought it was Carol Burnett.
but it just
Same
felt
with me.
like I thought when I was first started watching it because I was a kid. I didn't and there was no internet where
And
you could
then-
just
What
look
was
it
it
up.
about though?
I
It
thought
was
it was
just
Carol
literally
Burnett.
like a
I thought I was watching a Carol
white,
Burnett show, and then it was not.
kind of family.
Where like the grandmother's like the patriarch of the family. And she don't
Matriarch.
give a shit,
And the
Yeah.
the matriarch.
Where the grandmother's.
So it was like
And
Roseanne,
actually,
but
Rue
funny.
McCallum, Rue McCallum was a regular character,
okay.
so
Numbers.
another
Another tie-in.
appearance by
Check.
her, and Betty White was on it.
Yeah,
Oh man, I
Harvey
go
Korman
back
was
and
on
watch
it.
Well, starting on the Carol Burnett show, that makes sense.
Carol Burnett would show up on.
Yeah.
I love Harvey Korman. I know a lot of people say that Tim Conway was their favorite thing about Carol Burnett, but for me, it's all about
Brent
Harvey
Spinner
Korman.
was also on this show.
Carol Burnett would show up on the show. I thought that they were doing one of those like shows where
He was great. When Carol Burnett would show up on the show,
Really?
No, I really
They were
thought
doing
because
one
like
of
look,
those,
Pulling a Peter Sellers or
the
something.
actor plays two
Like,
different
look at the-
characters. I swear to God.
Oh yeah,
I swear to
yeah,
God,
yeah.
I thought because
And
Mama,
also
the
she
character
throws
of
an air
Mama
to
is
Carol
clearly a young
Yeah.
woman playing an older woman.
I feel like
And
Mama
I'm
might have
just-
been-
I'm not going to explain that and just let Daniel DeBona figure out what that means.
I feel like Mama might have been.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No,
Great show. I'm not.
I honestly have never seen,
Never even heard of it.
never even heard of it. This is
It's a
just
great show.
jogs
I'm not-
no memory of mine.
I'd never heard of.
This looks like a stock photo. If it
Never
wasn't for
even
Rue
heard of it.
It
McCallum's
was
face
low
on
budget.
it,
It was a low budget sitcom.
I had never heard of.
Before we started recording, there was a bunch of shows. Low budget. It was a red.
Yeah. I never heard a bunch of before we started recording. There was a bunch of shows that you got. You know what I mean? Like Red Peter Dinklage. I had no idea what the hell this was. So-
Night Court, head of the class.
So that's it. Is that it?
Yes.
My honorable mentions have all been talked
I was
about.
surprised
It
that Growing
was
Pains didn't
Night
show
Court,
up
Head of
on-
the class and Growing
I
Pains.
was surprised that Growing Pains didn't show
That was
up.
the list that I cut out. Huh?
This is fair.
All right. So number
Was it
one,
Growing Pains or Charles?
Dave and Steph have the same one.
Yay!
I think.
My
I
number
was-
4
oh, okay.
is the same as her number 1.
Didn't
One.
you
I
tape?
think.
You
I didn't table anything.
when
think I
she, when
yelled
she said
table at
Golden
him.
Girls, I thought.
I said Golden Girls for 4.
And I said tabled it
Yeah.
because it's my number.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I
Never
think I
mind.
yelled table.
You did yell tabled also. Yeah. Because it's your number 2.
I had a long day. Sorry.
Okay, so my number 1 would be Golden Girls.
I love this show.
Fantastic
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
The best show.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah, no, fantastic theme songs. The characters like
I
completely.
love the
feel
theme
like
song.
The
Love the
archetypes
theme
worked
song.
really well with each other. Made
Is what's her name? Has she always been old?
Betty White,
No.
B. Arthur is who you're
B.
thinking
Arthur.
of.
No.
Is what's her name?
Well, she was
Oh,
younger than
oh,
B.
yeah.
Arthur.
Yeah,
She was younger than all of them except Rue McCallaghan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Getty.
So Yeah.
I remember watching her.
Well, they
And she was
Her, My Mom Will
so
Shoot?
old.
Oh, I love that movie. It's so bad it's good.
I remember watching her in shows that she did before that, and I was like, how is she
You know
not?
what? Maybe I need
it's
to,
like,
and I've said this. Maybe I need to give Drive Angry another shot.
how do you love
Jeff's
that
nodding
movie?
his
but you don't
head. I
like
think
Drive
I agree
Angry
with
is
you.
beyond me.
You're right. Can't argue that.
Because I don't want to. It depends. When did you start nodding your head? Did you start nodding your head and then end up shaking your head? Because that's what counts. So I love the theme song.
Yeah.
I've only watched.
Okay,
it.
you definitely-
there were a lot of serious
One of the
episodes.
Blanche was getting an 8.
So it's not like it was like an
what the
oddball
fuck?
episode.
Yeah, I know. I get it. She's a
sitcom.
horror. Yeah. That's why it felt like every episode. It felt like every episode, but it felt like the handful of again
Like your test
only
group.
a handful.
litmus.
So my what's that word I'm looking for? That when you do a test, yeah. My test group is so small that I understand that it shouldn't count for anything because it's so small. But with that, all of them just seemed like they were all serious. And again, they had funny moments, of course. But I'm just like, okay. I think the funniest moments I've seen from Golden Girls are when I see clips on Facebook or something. When I see like a quick 30-second clip.
I'll watch it on
or
TV at
2-minute
night when I'm
clip.
going to sleep. Like,
And that's
randomly,
what I've
I'll
seen.
find it
I've never
on.
seen a
That's
full
what I'll put
episode
on to watch.
of Golden Girls.
And I'll
I'm
get
like,
through like
that's
2 or 3
hilarious.
episodes before I go to sleep.
I always laugh. There's always going to be.
Yeah.
Still Getty's like my favorite. One of my favorite.
She was as a kid my favorite, and she still is. Like sometimes that happens where, like with Taxi, where like
Yeah.
Laka was the draw for me as a kid, and then as I got older, I'm like, it's obviously Louis.
her smart ass remarks. Oh my god,
She
so
was
dry.
from start to finish. Still is my favorite thing about that show.
Yeah.
episode where she's in a hospital and they ask her for her social security number. And she goes,
There's an episode where she's at a house.
I remember this.
Her social security number, and she goes 0, 0,
Yeah.
0, 0, 0. And then the pause is all the fucking glory, dude. She's so fucking funny, and and everybody's losing it laughing. She's just deadpanning the whole fucking thing. She goes 0, 0,
Yeah. Yeah.
0, 1.
just keep fucking going. And it's so
I mean, and you can see it coming after the third 0. You know where this is fucking going.
I have of that show.
But she just keeps fucking going, and it's so fucking funny. And I'm like, this is great.
somebody stole all her life savings.
Yeah.
She died.
Yeah. And then that same episode, somebody stole all her life savings, and she died
got an
poor.
email from a
I'm kidding,
Nigerian
but my
prince.
point is, it was
honestly,
it was like within a
I just
serious
feel like
context,
there
and I was
was a
like,
TV show
this is
about
like, all right.
women of a certain age still having a life,
Yeah.
and like it was one of the few shows that actually centered around that. Yeah, it's still fucking like
and still
doing
working
stuff.
and like deciding I don't want to do this job anymore. I want to do something else.
And
Yeah.
God bless him.
Wasn't it because of that it gave Empty Nest came about? Didn't Empty Nest have something to do with Golden Girls?
I'm not too fond of I'm not too familiar with the history of Golden Girls.
I'm not too fond of I'm not too familiar with
the Arthur was done. She
the history
moved
of
to
Golden Girls
Georgia with Rose's uncle. Was it? She married Rose's uncle,
I don't remember.
and she leaves the show, and then they all stay. Her mom was gonna move with her. She decides to stay, and then Golden Place came around.
Right. Palace.
Golden Palace. That's it. Golden Palace.
I just see it here.
Yeah. And like honestly, like it was like freaking Betty White. Well,
Golden Palace. That's it.
but I'm saying Betty White like just stayed that way forever. You look back on the ages that like
Don Cheadle and Jack Black were in, and Cheech Marin were in Golden Palace.
Really?
Yes.
She's still alive, right?
Don Cheadle and Jack Black.
Yeah, he got one of his.
So, George Clooney was in Golden Girls. Yeah, he got one of his starts in Golden Girls, and there was a joke that they did at an award show where Betty White and him were. Yeah, we were in Golden Girls together, and he's like, yeah, I remember what we had to do to get that job.
Yeah, definitely.
And
No, and like it's funny because when you look back at like
they played
when
off
the
of that
show actually
angle, and I
started
was like,
and
this
their
fucking great.
ages, Like
they're not that old.
They're really not that old.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where like it shows you how messed up 80s style was. Like
that early 50s was
considered
you're old already.
Yeah, like you're old, you're past your prime, you can't do anything, you might as well die. And be like, dude, she just turned 50. Like I look at my parents and my mom and stuff like that, and I'm like, they're fine. They still have like so much time.
Right.
Can't imagine someone shipping them off into like one house and being like, and now you live here together because you can't do anything on your own. No one's gonna love you.
Right.
They dealt with like really interesting things about like Rue McGowan's like her brother being like, I think it was her brother who was gay. Or Rose's brother was gay. Like one of them.
One of them was her son. It was the son.
Was it son or brother? I thought it was brother.
I can't remember.
I can't remember. I think it might have been one of the other. But like them dealing with like a gay family member and stuff like that, and other people like teaching them to like accept and like tolerance was taught then. Like maybe not full on acceptance, but because they still need to. It was still the 80s.
Right.
It was still the 80s. But like things like that kind of stuff stuck with me. Like I just genuinely love that. It was just like a little house of progressive women, and the one Southern woman who was whorish enough to be progressive.
That was the show I mentioned at the very beginning. That I know it wasn't the demographic, but even when I was young, I watched it and I was laughing.
But there was also, at least for me, there was this connection to the show that it took place in Miami, and I know that it was shot in LA, but it took place in Miami, and all the exterior shots were done at MGM Studios.
Yeah.
I think it was in Miami. I think they lived in Miami, not Boca. Though Boca is obviously, realistically, a much bigger retirement
Which I
center.
confirmed Empty Nest was a spin-off of Golden Girls because he was in the same neighborhood. No, it said that the thing I showed you, it said there was an episode actually of Golden Girls called Empty Nest.
Spin-off of
and that's what's like steamrolled the pilot for the show. But they were in Miami, and it was like, or in South Florida, at least is a better way, I guess. To say it.
And before they tore down the backlot at MGM Studios, you would take the backlot tour, and they would point out that's the Golden Girls house.
Yeah,
and so you'd pass. I'd pass by it, and I'm like, oh, that's the house that I see on the TV. So I would look for that show as a kid because there was that connection with it. And like you said, I wasn't the target demographic, but I still, I still laughed about it. And like for me as a kid, like Estelle Getty, like you were saying, but also those absurd, like they came out of nowhere. Those stories that Betty White told about her childhood, growing up in like Wisconsin or wherever it was, Nebraska.
Wasn't it like a random island?
No, she grew up in like this like middle America, like Midwest town, and it was all ridiculous. It was like all an episode of Green Acres is what she was basically describing, and it was just outlandish. You're like, what fucking world is she from? She was so out there. Like if Phoebe had been funny on Friends, I feel like that's or likable. Yeah. It would have been
or likable.
Yeah.
Do you think Betty's White character kind of fed into like informed Phoebe?
It was Saint Olaf.
Yeah. The first episode
Possible.
featured a gay houseboy
named
Coco.
Kind of fed into like
That's very progressive. Oh wow! The first episode featured a gay houseboy.
This is where I got thrown off. Rose is a Norwegian American.
The role was dropped before the dropped.
She was a Norwegian American from a small farming town of St. Olaf, Minnesota.
Minnesota. Okay, Minnesota. That's
funny. I remember it was a Saint something.
So yeah,
a great number one.
Love that show.
Minnesota.
I know that was a solid pick. It defends some of my others.
David?
My number one, like I mentioned before, this is not nearly as good as some of the other ones, but this is, for me, I'm fairly certain that this was my introduction to television. You're 100% right.
Am I right?
It's Alf.
There we go.
Alf.
I knew it!
Alf is... I called it! Alf is one of those TV shows where like Alf is.
Damn it! You beat me. Fuck! You started talking, and I was like, "Don't say the joke! Don't say the joke! Don't say the joke!"
I also
with the worst ending in fucking TV history.
I don't even remember it.
He gets kidnapped by the government, and that's it. The show ends.
That's how it
Because the show got canceled, though.
Right.
I always assumed that there was more after that.
Nope.
Okay, because it only ran for 2 seasons.
The show
because
got canceled. The show got canceled, so they ended it on the cliffhanger of him getting taken away by the government to be experimented on.
Isn't as bad because of exterior
taken away by the
circumstances.
government.
See, but that to me isn't as bad
been
because
explained.
of
You're right. I forgot How I Met Your Mother.
exterior circumstances.
Yeah, that's awful.
That to me shouldn't go down in worst. Yeah, would have. You know what I mean? It was. And How I Met Your Mother, which I still haven't seen.
But
no
again,
Room
I think that they
and
had
then I
that
still
sort of,
haven't
they
seen.
were
And
holding
then
out for
The
that movie
Sopranos was
thing.
fucking bad, dude.
They defended it. They doubled
Yeah.
down. The creators have doubled down on it.
No.
They just.
No, they've defended it. They've doubled down on it. The creators
They're
have
not-
doubled
they're
down
not
on
wrong,
it.
but it doesn't
That's
make for
just
good
regular
TV.
life, the way life. They
Yeah,
just,
I hear the same
keeps going
thing
for these guys.
about Dexter. Yeah, and my best friend is a psychologist, and he tells me that is the most
I heard
realistic
Dexter was
ending
horrific.
that they could have written for
I've never
a
seen Dexter,
psychopath.
but-
And I tell him that's perfectly fine, but it doesn't make for compelling television.
Yeah, I don't even remember how does it end. Oh, wait, is there some reason?
So there's actually 4 seasons.
Oh, 4, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Get out! Oh, I thought you had grabbed it already.
Okay, so for anyone who's listening,
Jackets have 2 sleeves.
I'm not looking.
there's literally just a fight about a
So
jacket on.
the
it.
season-ending cliffhanger, Consider Me Gone, became an international series finale when NBC gave Alien Productions a verbal commitment for a 5th season, but ultimately withdrew its support.
Yeah, so it was going to be tied up.
Isn't NBC also the one that just canceled Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
So the ABC resolved the cliffhanger on February 17th, 96
Yeah.
with the TV movie Project Alf.
No, that's Fox.
For me as a kid, it was all about just this ridiculous looking alien puppet, and the fact that like life was perfectly normal in the Tanner household, except for the fact that like the weird like second son was an alien.
that sounds like a log line for the show. Like you just wrote like life was perfectly normal in the Tanner household except for the weird fucking son.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it is, and like
I gotta be honest with you, there's a lot of similarities. I've watched a few episodes, a handful of episodes of Alf recently.
You know, I gotta be honest with you. There's a lot of similarities. I've watched a few episodes, or a handful of episodes of
it
Alf
still hasn't hit
recently,
its
like,
stride
within the last
until
month.
like halfway
And
through
there's
that
a lot of similarities. The first couple episodes are rough, dude. It's fucking tough to get through. It's but there are some episodes where it kind of is very
Really?
reminiscent of, and I know it's kind of blasphemous because the show is pretty amazing. Of I Dream of Jeannie. You had the nosy neighbor who was like she had an inclination that there was something wrong, but she could never really pinpoint it. And there was always something, you know what I mean? So there
And
was
Alf was
that
not doing a very good
aspect, and
job
there
of
was
hiding
we're
it, just
hiding
like Jeannie
something from
wasn't-
the rest of society, but only our family, our
Unlike
immediate
Bewitched
family
and
knows.
stuff like that.
That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, and he's not.
I'm sorry. I said
Yeah, just like Jeannie would always do shit magical with her fucking nose. Right. That's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about Bewitched. I'm sorry. I said I Dream of Jeannie, but I meant Bewitched. The show has a lot of similarities with Bewitched.
I have gone back and I've rewatched
That's why I
this
said nosy
because
Were you afraid it wasn't going to hold up?
I was afraid it wasn't going to hold up, and like Neri said, the first couple episodes are a little rough. I think it's too cheesy. And just like Bewitched, like it doesn't feel, at least the first couple episodes, doesn't feel like an 80s show. It actually feels older. It's got like a very old school sense of humor and timing, and every episode ended with the family huddled around Alf laughing. Like, you know, it was like...
It feels like a bad show.
Right. The other white meat.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's
It's
actually
kind of
not-
like what Fuller House is like today. Garbage. Yeah, as you shouldn't. But that's
Once-
exactly what the first few
once
episodes.
they
I'm talking about,
once
the
they
first 5 or 6
really
episodes of Alf
find,
was like,
you know,
boy, this nostalgia
the
shit
rhythm of
is
the
fucking
show.
deep. Because
and a lot of
goddamn,
it
this
really
fucking show's
goes
awful.
back to them. You know, it really is. It left the most lasting impression on me.
I can't believe this is your number one.
Yeah. I mean, it was the puppet.
all the fucking the merchandising.
Yeah.
Merchandising.
I still have.
It was a big deal, man. I used to have all
You
the
still
fucking
have it?
the
I still have it.
merchandising,
Yeah.
man.
I don't know what happened
It's
to
in
it.
Link's room
I used to have an off lunchbox.
and
Where's it on the skin though?
He was playing Predator.
He just wears it as a skin now.
anytime. Anytime.
He finally grew into it.
The more into the like culture of Melmac that the show got, like the more the less it explored the like sort of we're trying to hide something, and the more it dove into the let's really look at how disruptive Alf can be, the better the show got. And
he's talking about gold like it's worth something.
that was one of the greatest things. And he makes his way into the laundry.
This guy on TV is
right?
talking about
they've got
gold
all
like
this
it's
lint,
worth
they're throwing
something.
the lint on. He goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, That's the most precious thing on Melmac, you know. And it's like, oh, okay. There's all these like weird things. The whole cat thing. It may be the oldest like running gag. Like it may have gotten old after like 3 episodes. I still laugh whenever he goes after the fucking cat.
Oh, when he had
It may have gotten old after like 3 episodes.
the hiccups for
I still
him,
laugh
like,
whenever he
shake the
goes
whole
after.
house.
Oh, when he had the hiccups, he had the hiccups for him who like would shake the whole house, and there was only 2 ways of getting rid of it. One was cat juice, and then the other one I can't even say because it's that disgusting. And then they go, "Fuck, well, we got time for this." And it turns out that he goes, "Well, how do you get cat juice?" Get a cat from you.
And then they're like, what's the other way?
And then he would mime squeezing, and then they're like, "What's the other way?" He's like, "I don't even." It's so disgusting. He goes, "Oh my god!" So they didn't talk about. And then at the end of the episode, it turns out that like prune juice or some bullshit like that cured it. What the fuck? All you gotta do is take or tomato. I think it was tomato juice.
And
all you
like,
gotta do
to
is
me,
take
it really
tomato
just
juice. Like, oh my
does
god.
go back.
I don't even want to talk about how disgusting it is
and how absolutely absurd he is.
There's a lot of episodes where there's a lot of dream sequences. You gotta imagine, you can't leave the house.
Yeah.
So
The dream sequences were really good. There was a lot of episodes where there's a lot of dream sequences. Because you got to imagine, he can't leave the house. So a lot of these episodes that were outside the house were dream. There was a dream sequence where he became a stand-up comic, and he went up in front of a very young, very alive John Panay. And I know it hurt my fucking like I saw that and like it broke my heart. I'm like, oh no. And then that whole episode is how
This is too real.
how he became super famous, but he wouldn't write, he wouldn't change his act. And I was like, this man, now as a comedian, now as a professional comedian, I'm like, man, this motherfucker hit this shit right on the fucking nose. They knew what they were talking about, and then John Panay overlaps him in fame, and he goes, "Oh, you're a cautionary tale, Alf. Thank you very much."
I feel like that
Guys
entire episode was that was the
young
writers
comics now
like
know that we have, that they have to write and
just
not be
trying to
lazy and
lecture
not,
a bunch of comedians. Yeah.
there's like fucking because I'm sure the writers were all comics, and I'm sure
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's like fucking like, but because I'm sure the writers were all comics, and I'm sure they're like this motherfucker, whoever this
who they were
fucking
trying to, like-
insert whatever
That was like their version of
stand up was
subtweeting
hot at that
someone.
moment in the 80s.
Just like writing a whole episode around them. At that time, no.
Bobcat Goldthwait.
At that time,
Maybe Robin Williams.
like
He was
Who's the
known to be a
watermelon
thief.
guy? Forgot his name.
Gallagher.
Gallagher. There you go.
At that time when he was known to be a thief.
for his brother Gallagher.
Stand up.
No, my line. There's 2 Gallaghers.
Gallagher. But are you talking about Gallagher or his brother Gallagher? No, I'm not
shit.
lying. There's
I didn't
2
know this.
Gallaghers.
I did
When
not.
he retired, he bought the act off of his brother.
Then,
Swear to God. Yeah. And they continued on as if it was the same guy. And then here's a weird thing. His brother sued him.
Oh,
In the
that's
contract,
worse.
he wasn't allowed to use pictures of his brother, even though they were fucking twins. And his brother sued him, because he was using pictures of him, not of himself,
Even though they had
of
the
his
same
brother.
image.
And that was like a breach of contract because he bought the act, he didn't buy him. So right, and even though they had the same image, and so he would be by contract, he would have to go
It was
after the
waiting.
lawsuit. He would have to go by Gallagher too.
So there you go. Yeah, Alf.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
very surprising.
My favorite. My number
Yours.
one is the Cosby Show.
Very surprised.
Okay.
Okay. What's your number one, Neri? I mean,
You guys can still watch
Table.
it now.
it is. I mean,
Yeah, but I'm saying you can watch him, like
It's the
him,
greatest. It's one of the
Dude.
greatest sitcoms of all time.
because
I
of
have
what he was
no
doing
problems in watching
while that show was going on.
Why? Why? That doesn't bother me at all.
You don't eat Jello anymore?
He was doing it
I don't.
afterwards. and
He is
beforehand,
not
too.
Jello. His face isn't Jello.
if you think of Jello, you think of Bill Cosby.
You don't eat Jello
I
anymore?
don't think of anything else when I think of Jello.
Oh,
it's
really?
Bill Cosby.
Really? He was a spokes, right?
Yeah. Oh God! Then I forget about it, and I don't remember.
In fact, when I think of Bill Cosby, I think of Jello. With a roofie, but still Jello.
Like it,
And I don't remember. And then I wake up with my pants unbuttoned, but still, the fact that I think about Jello
I'm
is
looking at it from the standpoint of the show was probably one of the greatest.
It's a fantastic
sitcoms
show.
of all time.
No matter what, that's why it tends to go on my honorable mentions. I can't put it on my mountain and say that I will actually sit there and be able to rewatch it without looking at that guy's face the entire time being like, you are such a fucking evil human being.
No, I agree with you that he's a fucking piece of...
Yeah.
No, I'm not defending him, but it still doesn't take away from the work that he
I absolutely
that show
no, but
did.
nobody's defending Bill Cosby.
That show brought around
is gonna-
other...
The whole cast.
That
Yeah.
show was that show and Good
And it
Times
wasn't just
right before-
him,
and Good
but it
Times
wasn't just
before
him, too.
were- and helped.
The first show where it was all black cast that was highly successful. They weren't in the ghetto. They weren't in the hood.
Yeah, because Good
Well,
Times
it-
they
that
were
was
in
The
the
first show where it was all black cast that was highly successful.
Jefferson's
They
had
weren't in
white
the ghetto.
people in
They
it.
weren't in the hood. They weren't. Good times. They were in the hood. What's happening? They were in the hood. They were all the Jeffersons had the Jeffersons came before it, and the Jeffersons even that took forever. Where it was they were highly successful, and even in the Jeffersons,
Look, no matter what,
Weezy was a housewife. So it was
attorney.
one of those where women still had their quote unquote place in the thing. The Cosby Show had a doctor and a,
Look, no matter
and a
what, like,
highly
the reason
successful
I
attorney. And they're raising
Yeah,
a
he
whole
was a piece of
family,
But
and
I'm
they
saying,
were
like,
well
I
off.
do,
and
I
it
do,
was-
like,
shit,
I do
yeah.
acknowledge.
But you're right. He was a
importance of the
fucking
show.
evil being.
And, like,
he is
what
an evil being.
came
Let's not
from it.
past tense this.
and everything like that, and that's why for me it ended up on my honorable mention because it's still an important like a show and everything like that. I can't revisit it. I can't watch it and enjoy it now without being disgusted. And I don't know, maybe if it comes from being
We've talked about this on Woo Bro for years ago. Where you can't watch a Roland Polanski.
Yeah, but you're what? But you're
Right.
what?
Yeah.
We've talked about this on
Like-
Woo
like
Bro
this-
for years ago, where you can't watch a Roland
Yeah.
Polanski movie for the same reason.
Are you going to say that The
You choose
Usual
not to watch
Suspects
a
isn't a
Roland
good
Polanski
movie
for
now?
that same reason?
I actually
You can't
never
watch a
seen
Woody
The
Allen
Oh,
movie for that
okay,
reason.
never mind.
Right.
I
Like
still
we've
have
talked
some
about this before. Like
You should probably watch it.
yeah.
Well, bad example then. But I was
But
gonna,
even before that, Bryan Singer is the one who directed
Spoiler alert,
it, right?
he's
And,
a fucking,
he's had lots.
he's a pedophile monster.
the problem is it.
But it has been gone to like the,
Yeah,
The problem
yeah.
The problem is, does it
But I'm
make
saying, I don't
it
know about
different?
the-
Yeah, but does it take away from the quality of what
Has
that
it been
show was or
confirmed,
what that?
though?
As I'm
that
saying, that's
thing
why
was?
it ends up in the honorable mention.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
But I can't in my right mind like
Years ago on Woo Bro, you and I we talked about this.
Hey, listen.
Before
I'm
it was
in
actually confirmed.
I'm with you. Remember years ago on Woo Bro,
just
you and
heard
I
about
we
it.
talked about this same thing where
Roman Polanski, like you mentioned.
right
Yeah.
before it was confirmed, we talked about things like Woody Allen and people of that nature where it wasn't confirmed. Polanski. And I would say all the time, as
He
long as you
did
don't
physically.
physically hurt anybody,
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. Like, yes, I don't have to like you as a person, but I'll just judge you based upon your act. Here's the fucked up part: he
Yeah,
did
like your
physically
but-
hurt people, and I'm
But
like,
unfortunately,
so now I'm
that
put
is
in a
you
position where I'm
as
like,
a
well,
good
you
man
did say,
moving the
and I'm like, well, I
line.
know what I fucking
Like
said.
deciding that you
Well, the
can
Cosby
move
Show is
the
still really
line.
good, though.
That is you as a good man.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't know.
You're not wrong. I am not disagreeing with you on this. This
Right,
is not
right.
like a numbers thing
For
where you're
comedy,
wrong.
yeah, for Jello. And I agree. No, you're not wrong. I am not disagreeing with you on it. This is not
I'm
like a
agreeing with
numbers
you
thing where you're
too.
wrong. on
He's
the
a piece of
numbers
shit.
You,
But
the
that
show is also
valid
more than
point,
just him.
and I am not disagreeing with you. He's a piece of shit. I would not. I thought Cosby. I thought Cosby, Bill Cosby, was a piece of shit
Yeah, we had already
before he
known
was
by
even confirmed. Before Hannibal Buress. When Hannibal Buress said it, I was like, yeah, that's pretty much like a thing. We already had known by then, and people ask. I've been on the radio when they asked me like, oh, you as a comedian? I go, no, I think he did it. Like I'm not gonna fucking protect him because we do the same job. Why? Because we do in the same profession, the same industry. Like, no, I don't. And I'm not hating on him because he's famous and I'm not. Like, that's not that's not a thing either. But I was like, no, I think he did it. I think he's a dirtbag. That was before all was confirmed. That was before
before he got convicted. That was all before that shit. And I said, no. So I agree. He's totally dirtbag. And I totally
I'm not knocking it at all.
Somebody who says I can't watch that show again, don't believe me. I'm not. That is not. I'm not trying to get you to watch it either. I'm not be like, no, but give it a shot, Stephanie. Watch the fucking rapist as he, hugs a kid. Like I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to tell you that.
And stuff like Theo dealing with his dyslexia. You had teen pregnancy was tackled in it because I think it was Denise's friend when they were younger got pregnant and they were dealing with what happens with teen pregnancy and like there's a lot of things that they did tackle that weren't really addressed before. It unfortunately,
I think it's one of the things where like it just feels like now it feels like a lie. Like I feel lied to because he was such a positive father figure in his marriage. Yeah, he's a clean comic and he would talk. Yeah, and he would try to like be an example to other black men and all this stuff, and like it's one of the things where like he put himself in this position, and then all of a sudden like turns out like he didn't see anything wrong in what he was doing too.
Again, totally would never defend. I've never defended Bill Cosby. In fact, totally would never defend. I've never defended Bill Cosby. In fact, you and I have been on an episode a long time ago where before we even got into the dynamic of as a person, I always said he's not funny.
I saw him at Gator,
I don't find Bill Cosby's stand-up funny.
See,
that's blasphemous.
I don't understand that because my favorite comedy special has always been Bill Cosby himself.
No, that checks out because you don't like anything that we like as far as what we think.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like every time we mention a funny movie. No, that checks out because you don't like anything that we like as far as what we think is funny. Right. So like every time we mention a funny movie, you go watch and go, it wasn't funny. We're like, all right, well, I don't know what to tell you. So the fact that you think Bill Cosby himself, I'm like, I don't like a 6-hour story. I'm not that guy. So for one punchline,
even just with his words, he put me to
but that's just that's very as a comedian, that's very like, oh, you're not supposed to say that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
FYI, she really doesn't find those jokes.
I don't know if you know this, but she's thinking the whole time.
Those jokes are funny, and she's right here.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
I'm kidding. No, but I'm not kidding about. I'm kidding about making jokes behind your back. I'm saying I'm not kidding. Totally do that, but I am. When I talk about the best sitcoms of all time, to me, I'm not trying to support the show. I'm not trying to support him. I'm just saying the show is. When I talk about the best sitcoms of all time, to me, I don't think like what they did. When they did the CBS, was it NBC like whatever anniversary it was like 2 years ago, and they did like it was like a whole 1 hour special, and they went back in time, and they from the humble beginnings of NBC radio and blah 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 and stuff there.
Right.
They totally glossed over. They did not mention the Cosby Show at all. Like if it doesn't exist, I'm like, well, that's not fair.
Well, it's like you mentioned with
But do you really
with the AFI
because
the AFI Top 100. It's a totally politically motivated.
Do you understand how big? Do you understand how big the show was? Really? Yeah.
I mean, I understand where you.
Yeah. All of a sudden, Braveheart's not one of the top 100 movies. All of a sudden, really? Is that really? All of a sudden, the Braveheart's not that good of a movie anymore. Now there's all of a sudden at least another 100 movies better than Braveheart because the star is a fucking asshole, a racist asshole.
Context of
all of a sudden there's 100 better movies.
That doesn't change the movie. The movie's the movie.
I think it's different, and I can see where you're coming from because the show, it was him as the all-American dad.
Yeah, like
the
he wasn't a character
father.
In it. He was so much of the cornerstone of the show.
Correct. And he projected what you wanted everybody wanted their dad to be.
Yeah.
Because he was like in that show, he was the loving father who, gave you whatever you needed.
He was fair. He was always fair.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair.
And then this comes out, and it's completely different than that character that.
But that he,
right.
Yeah. But that he also in real life still kind of projected as if he was still that guy.
Correct.
Like he took on that
monster,
character into life. That's the thing. That's the thing about it too.
He knew
the hypocrisy. That stuff taints
we were watching what was it, Eddie Murphy Raw not that long ago.
Hypocrisy.
Eddie Murphy's got this bit about how Cosby calls him up.
Saying that he shouldn't be cursing so much.
Right. Yeah, that you know.
Yeah.
It was totally
he shouldn't
something
be cursing
that
so much of
he
the
sold
show.
and the world bought.
That you could be funny
I
without
think it has everything to
filth,
do with
fraud, and
objectivity.
filth.
If you can look
He's
at
like,
the show as a disparate work where it is not associated with Cosby, it's just the show. I'm with you guys, but of course everything is subjective, and your experience watching it is going to be your experience watching it. And I'm with you.
But it really
That's why it didn't make my list over Golden Girls because I thought to myself.
No, there wasn't.
No,
I mean,
no, but for me, I asked.
Is that what the deciding factor was?
I asked
Steph was like, yes, that's
I asked
it.
myself
That's,
which one of these would I
one
rather
of these
watch
shows
right
rape
now.
people. One of these shows didn't.
And
That's
Golden
Golden
Girls
didn't
won
rape
out
people.
over Cosby. That's what was fighting out for my number 4. So, but I get it. But I get it because I laughed my ass off with that show nonstop. I
totally get it.
I looked forward to watching it. I laughed my ass off with that show nonstop. I loved that show.
the thing is, he's
Rudy?
so much. I don't know.
Rudy was
Like,
amazing.
I
in
totally
that.
get it.
One of my favorite
Yeah.
I honestly, as a,
It's not like Jazzy. It's not like Jazzy.
I totally
Jeff
get it,
and
man.
Fresh
You don't
Prince
have to
turned out
defend
be
your
a
stance.
dick.
I
Turned out to be a
honestly,
horrible
as
monster. And you're like,
Fresh
Prince
as
is
a
so great. It was this one random character who would come in every so often was a horrible monster, like
Yeah.
as a real person, but has nothing to do with his character. And it's not like he portrayed that character in real
Right.
life and made influential
Right.
shit with it.
I totally get it, man. You don't have
So, like,
when somebody, Steph, if you tell me,
I totally get it, man. You don't have to defend your. When somebody, Steph, if you tell me when you say I can't go back and watch that show, I would never ask you to. I'm like, that makes sense, man. I totally. You don't.
Yeah.
As a human being, as a person, as a man, as a friend, I could look at somebody saying that and
it's
be
not
like,
like a,
totally get it,
well,
man.
will you do this like as a lecturing thing?
you
Like
don't have to
genuine
defend that stance.
curiosity. Your kids have the Cosby Show in front of them. Are you gonna have a conversation with them about it? Are you just gonna let them watch it? Are you gonna let them be fans of it? Like,
I let them watch. Again, if there was a
fans of it.
No, I'll let them watch it. I let them watch. Again, if there was a
including Van Damme.
like infatuation that I have,
Especially Van Damme.
kid, where I wanted to get my hands on anything Van Damme, right? Kind of like what I have in group. Yeah, no, yeah. Starting with Van Damme, but when I was a kid, like if that, like any movie that would come out, any Van Damme movie, I had to be there. I had to watch it. So I had to like I would record all his movies on VHS and this whole thing. So as a parent, if I saw any of my kids doing that with Bill Cosby, I'm like, well, now we have to have a conversation. But if you're just watching a show, you don't, especially, and now what age are we talking about? Because my daughter's 7, so are we talking about she's 7 or are we talking about she's 15? Because when she's 15, she won't know the history. Somebody will have to teach her what happened. Just like Dave's students have to read about 9/11, my daughter's going to have to read up. I mean, she's not going to be, she's going to have to read about what happened, who this Bill Cosby guy was. So I'll be more than happy to have that conversation then at an appropriate age. But if she's just watching an episode or if she's watching the show, I'm not going to be like, well, just so that you know, before you laugh, some shit went down. Like, I'm not, you know what I mean? And it didn't happen in the show or to anybody that was cast in the show. That's another thing. I think that's another, maybe in my mind, maybe it's just I'm making excuses. Maybe I'm making, maybe I'm making excuses. I'm fair. I'm honest enough with myself to be like, maybe that's what I'm doing. Because I think it would feel different for me if he raped
what was going on,
or it's like
on the set.
Well, now I can't watch that show because now I know.
But I mean, it still was.
She was.
But yeah, it is a
what was
little
going on behind
kind
it?
of.
Honestly, like that would be
thin
maybe a
line
thing.
is so
But maybe I'm just
It really is, just because it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, but then like, are you really only like you didn't want to watch it because you didn't want to actually?
It is.
See the
It really
victims
is
in front of you. But like, they're still wandering around that set in the past.
I mean, I'm with you because like you mentioned Roman Polanski, right? And one of my favorite all-time movies is a Roman Polanski movie, which is Chinatown. And I absolutely love that movie. And anytime someone mentions, that movie, I am going to lay into that movie and talk about it as much as I possibly can, without mentioning him. Yeah, and I did just that when we talked about our mountain of movie villains. I talked about John Huston's character in that film. He's absolutely diabolical. And I talk so much about him and that film without actually making it about Polanski. But if I held true to my guns, like, I wouldn't be able to watch that movie.
Yeah. See, for me with Woody Allen, it's a little bit different because Woody Allen's movies are so obviously just him doing like self-flagellation, kind of like trying to like live out different little fantasies where he's the main character all the time.
I never
where
found
I'm just
him
like,
funny though.
I never found any of his movies.
Yeah. Whereas like Polanski, like
Yeah, somebody goes, "Hey, you can never eat shit again."
I never found any of his movies.
like Polanski,
Like if somebody goes, somebody goes, "Hey, you can never eat shit again." Oh no,
he does.
Like,
in what he did. So in that, right? You know, great to disagree, but yeah, I mean, I just. I get where you're coming from. I get where you guys are coming from.
I would never.
You know, I love that show. I will never argue with anyone who says that is the greatest 80s show.
I would never. And again, and it's
got it. Yeah.
And especially as a man to a woman, when a woman says I can't watch a show, who the fuck am I to be like, no, woman, you watch it? Like, who the fuck? Like, yeah, I'm not.
Why don't you go make us some sandwiches?
That guy creeps me out, and I'm a fucking grown ass man, and he creeps me the fuck out. Like, I can't even.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what's fucked up is I'm aware everything's
talk about
jokes,
it.
but there's
And
a
then I'll tell you
knee-jerk
how to
reaction
think.
in my head that's like rage.
No, I'm not. Again, it's
I'm like, hey man, as a man, I would never tell a woman that she's wrong.
yeah, no, like again, that's why when you started talking about it, I'm like, hey man, as a man, I would never tell a woman that she's wrong for feeling a certain way. So
That's I can't even argue.
like I said,
Yeah.
as a person, as a human.
But notice
as a
how
man,
like how much I
totally
have to
get
admit that it was a very
that's-
specific kind
I
of
can't
show and a
even
very
argue that. I would
influential
never
one,
be
where
able
it
to do
still
that. So,
ends up
but
on my honorable mention. As much as I dislike the man, as much as I hate him, I'm just like, I will not take away from the fact that the show did this, and that. The show is an entity, like it's its own thing. I'm understanding of that, but it's just so true.
I had this conversation.
Oh,
with
so
Aries.
terrifying.
I had this conversation with Aries years ago, and he told me, he goes, "Hey, what if it turns out The Rock?"
I had this conversation with Aries. Years ago. And he
Don't you
told
put
me,
that evil on me, Ricky
what if-
Bobby.
turns out The Rock was a rapist. And I was like,
you know,
don't you put that evil on me? Like, I was like, what the fuck is, I was like, and I was, you know, I said, no, it would be over. Like, my fandom for him will be over. Like,
I think
wouldn't-
for you, yes,
he was like,
because the fact
I
that
don't
you're
think
just
so.
a fan
And then, you know,
him as a person. So if him as a
I'm
person was
wrong.
horrible, then it would taint everything else. It's not. Oh, this particular movie.
What kind of horrible? Like,
Yeah.
I don't care if you're an asshole. Like Russell Crowe is known to not be.
And then again, it all depends on what kind of horrible. Like, I don't care if you're
Yeah,
an
an asshole's a
asshole.
different
Like,
thing.
Russell Crowe is known to not be a nice guy to crew and staff and whatever the fuck, however.
Asian performers though.
Again, like I said, it depends where, because some people don't like Russell Crowe just because he's an asshole. And I'm like, okay, he gives an amazing performance though.
Then there's
And
Cosby.
That's where my standard of like, as long as it's not physically hurting anybody, I don't give a fuck. And
I
then,
just hate the fact that the show has his name.
but I'm not a fan of Cosby. I don't like Cosby. I just like the Cosby Show. I just hate the fact that the show has his name. If it would have been called the Huxtables, I would have been like, fuck, all right, yeah, like the fuck, Cosby's a dick, but Huxtables are awesome.
This
Like,
show
I
has
can't,
gone in
you know,
so many different directions.
I get it, man.
I'm emotionally
That's
drained.
my number one.
More turn Woobro.
I'm gonna have to
It really is. I was gonna say, I'm like, this feels like the Geekmore special.
It's like
a geek bro.
It's a Geekmore turn woo bro.
Woo geek.
Woo,
yeah.
Woo more.
Oh, we had that.
Yeah. All right.
There you go. What's up, Geek?
Everyone just tear it off
we
and put it
have a couple of repeats.
Golden Girls.
Golden Girls
I'm
and
happy.
Cosby Show.
Anyways, so
I didn't know
Yeah.
I was gonna pick it as number one. On my
and Cosby Show.
This makes me feel so dirty. Can they like be on?
I didn't know he was gonna pick it as his number one. How am I
each other?
supposed to
So
know?
that you know. I'll change my pick for you if you want.
What other options do we have?
But Neary still got Cosby Show. So
Yeah.
if we go by
Yeah.
number ones, and I change my number one.
So
Yeah.
Then Neary
Golden
still
Girls
got.
and
Then
Cosby
Neary
Show.
still
What
got
other shows?
Cosby
We
Show.
have
If we go
Newhart,
by number
Charles in
one,
Charge,
change my-
All right, so
Night Court.
Golden Girls and Cosby Show. What other shows? We have Newhart, Charles in Charge, Alf, Night Court.
The only
Different
other ones
Strokes.
from my list
Who's
that I
the
would
boss?
actually make an
Head of
argument
the
for, because I'm
class.
not going to argue for Alf.
More confused.
'Cause I know that's a personal favorite for me. I'd argue for Newhart.
I'd argue for sure.
I actually really enjoyed Newhart. I'm not going.
I'd argue
to
for a show that people
argue
have
for a
seen,
different
so
world
I'm
because
gonna
that's gonna be a whole
go.
thing. and we can't have Cosby Show and a different.
Did you?
Because of the spin-off factor.
Oh, is that why?
And
So you're okay with that?
Years weren't wrong.
whatever, dude.
Is that why? Oh, is that why? Or is that because the
What do you
years
think
weren't
it's
wrong? Is that why?
Oh Lord! All right.
Do numbers bend when you go to the other hemisphere? I don't know how you think numbers are
Use the
different.
metric system in the metric system.
Do numbers bend when you go to the other
Different
hemisphere of the world? Is that what happens when you go to Australia?
When
They
did a
bend?
different world air in Australia?
I would say
That probably would make it later.
A different world there in Australia?
When did a different world air? I don't know. Dave hasn't seen any shows like that. I was sometimes I watched. I asked him like, "Did you watch
air in
Whatcha?"
Australia? Like Australian made in Australia shows.
Yeah.
Do you watch all like Australian made in Australia shows? Yeah. We get a lot of those on Netflix. My daughter is infatuated with a show about mermaids. It's like Mako, something. Mako mermaids, yeah.
Yeah, I know her and your son
it's all
kept
filmed in
running up to
Australia
Dave
with
earlier and
Australians.
trying
It's
to,
all
like,
Australians.
boop him,
My
and then running
daughter
away
is infatuated
to
with
get him just to get him to talk.
Touch him, he talks, and then can't get him to talk.
All right. So what to?
Yeah, you touch him, he talks, and then it's like.
I'm down. I would fight for anyone of my other things, different strokes.
I don't look. I'm down. I would fight for any one of my other picks. Different strokes.
I would think Night Court is a
head of the
good,
class is
is a
great.
good pick to go on there.
Night Court is fantastic. Me and Jeff are very on the same page.
Wait, why wasn't Taxi on there as an option?
Good. Night Court done.
Yeah,
All right.
I mean,
so
obviously, I like it. I picked it.
I think it would be.
I'd love to see
it
Taxi
is.
on
Look,
there.
because like so many. Look, admittedly, so many of my other options.
So are you?
I'm good. I mean,
But all right, done. So it's Golden Girls, Cosby Show, Night Court, and Taxi.
100% on it.
That's the fun.
Forget the Cosby Show. It's staying on there.
I don't want
Golden
the
Girls and Cosby Show have to be next to each other.
I also have never seen Night Court, so I can't attest to it. But
Do you want another show? Do you want another? I'm like, we can.
Voted by me.
Seconded.
Well, Night Court was picked by Jeff.
Look, so many of my picks were Cosby
3-1.
shows.
Seconded by.
That's three. That's 3 on one side.
I do one mess up the entire run of this show.
That's 3 for math numbers. But if you want to think about it, it's
really
like
love a
4
different
as 1.
world. I will find an excuse, guys.
But you stuck to your
I
guns.
really love
You
a different
just
world.
it's like going. You,
It's a different world.
I love it too. I love a different world too.
Where you come
I
from.
love,
for the
I love
90s
a
it
different
did.
world.
Well, because it's a 90s show.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
It's on
Didn't it make your mountain for the 90s sitcom?
Donna Cut.
It made you. It literally. See, I looked at it. Right. Well, it depends on how you look at it, guys. It depends on how you look at it.
You know what this reminds me of?
I love
that
you so
that
much.
student
I love you
at
so-
every
you are so
class, every
adorable. I
teacher
love
is
you so
familiar with this.
much.
That kid who's like, so
I have
got,
missed you so
like,
much.
An 88.7. Could you give me the like? I'm almost at an A. Like it's practically an A. Like you should just give me the A.
Is there extra credit?
But it's not.
Yeah.
But it's still a B.
yeah, but if you look.
But it's still 90s. Yeah.
But if you look at it,
Yeah.
But it's still B.
you can say that.
Yeah, but if you look at the. But
Just admittedly, I would
but if you look at it,
exhaust those teachers into giving me an A.
you can say that it's an
I am
A because it's
inexhaustible.
so close that it's pretty much.
No,
I'm
man.
Your story checks out. The fuck out.
Your story checks out. Yeah, we love you.
My favorite response to
Totally believe that.
How can I move
Yeah,
the seat
totally
would be
believe that.
when it's
All right, so-
we've got 6 hours before the semester ends is build a time machine, go back in time, do your work, study, and then come back and talk to me.
Well, if you're already.
So you're saying there's a chance.
I like the fact that in this world they build a time machine.
Well, if you're already building a time machine, if you're already building, I like the fact that in this world they build a
wouldn't
time
think about
machine,
that.
but they
They
can't
wouldn't
just
think
give
about that.
the
Even
correct
after building
answers
time
to every
machine.
test.
Building a time machine.
You still have to study.
Now time to study.
Yeah.
I just build a fucking time.
I hope I know what's gonna be
Even
on
after
this
building a
test.
time machine, like they're like, all right, now time to study.
Wait,
I
what did
just
he
built
say?
a fucking time machine. Yeah. Fuck. Like, it's so dumb.
Did he say there was going to be on this questions?
There was a good episode of Boy Meets
Oh,
World
yeah.
where he thought he was stealing
took the bait.
the test questions, and Mr. Feeney left those questions out there on purpose. And then he felt guilty. He felt guilty, and he confessed. And he goes, "Mr. Matthews, I tell you what's going to be in a test every single week in
rocket
class
science.
on the chalkboard. When I tell you to read chapter 9, it's going to be in the
Rocket surgery.
like it's going to be in a test. Like that was he. Yes, it's not rocket surgery. Anyway, so thank you for coming, Steph. Love you. I've missed you. When are you coming back?
I
Do
don't
you know?
anything planned just yet, but that's because I just
You have no
started a
idea?
new big girl job.
Anything in 2019?
So I don't know how. Well. Oh yeah. So yeah. So now, I mean, obviously, I'm still doing
You wanna tell
photography
people what you
and
do?
stuff, but to pay bills, because new country, new life. Huh? Who dis? I actually am doing recruitment now specifically for
Who dis?
people in the creative industries.
New country, new
so
life. Who
I
dis?
help people in the graphic designers and animators and people in advertising and stuff like that get work.
That's awesome.
By the way, I forgot to mention this at the top of the episode. Merry Christmas, because this is coming out.
Great. That's awesome. By the way, I forgot to mention this at the top of the episode. Merry Christmas, because this is coming out.
And now it's a Christmas episode.
This is
just
the
'cause we
last
did that.
episode before Christmas.
Isn't it cold outside? Oh,
So,
Did Cosby write that?
some Merry Christmas.
I go back to that. I don't think that song is messed up if people make it.
No, it's not.
Did Cosby
because it
write
is.
that song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it doesn't age well.
It sounds if you.
I don't think it's messed up from when the time that it was written, but nowadays it doesn't age well. It's like when you watch an episode of a TV show and they do like a gay joke and you go,
without the
good
context
for-
of
like,
what
it's like
they
that.
actually meant back when the song was written.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
to their point, in all fairness, they shouldn't have to. You're listening to a song.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But to their point, in all fairness, they shouldn't have to. You're listening to a song in 2018. You should. It's kind of like when you listen to. You watched Eddie Murphy Delirious 3 months ago, and you're like, oh, there's a lot of homophobia.
Right.
Like, yeah, there is. It doesn't take. You're not wrong. It was.
Yeah.
It was, taped in the 80s.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like, oh, fuck you. Just deal with it. It should be
We
like,
could have
well,
a whole
no, you're right.
dissertation
It's,
about this song.
So same thing with music.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I mean, you're right. It wasn't written when it was written. We did on Woobro. Welcome.
Hey.
So I know you've been busy in love and blah 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 whatever. But thank you for coming back, Dave. Bring her back as often as you can. And
The way we have it organized now is since I get to just
bring her back to the States.
enjoy my photography now.
But
Stress at the beginning while setting it up. Anything from here on out that I book, I'm just gonna immediately is like, oh look, that's a ticket back home.
Stress.
Whoop.
Nice.
What's a good idea?
And for the listeners, her website is
MyDearWatson.co.
and for the listeners,
Changed.
her website is.
mydearwatson.co. It used to be.
Oh
used to
shit!
be
.co, yo.
Fine.
Yeah, mydearwatson.co.
Yeah, but it is now
used
called
to
My
be
Dear
something
Watson
else.
because I moved.
It doesn't matter. We don't have to go there because it
It's for a
confuses
guy
people.
named
I don't
Watson.
want to
He's
give them.
sitting over
But it used to
there.
be something else. My dear
And
Watson.
yeah, I just figure I want to start building more content on it. I want to start blogging on it at some point when I forget how time. And yeah, I figure at some point I will eventually be talking to little ones called Watson. So no pressure, but no pressure, but
You're getting a dog.
No pressure. You're getting puppies, bro. So
Mine.
and then and then to the listener, there is a video
Is it
of
mine?
mine that Steph
So,
has
it's gonna come out-
has been editing. Has edited. I don't know if you're finished.
Do you want to come up top of it?
Is editing.
Yeah. Okay.
So and it's gonna come out soon.
I know it sounds like
don't
gibberish
know.
what I'm saying now, but when-
It'll make sense.
It'll make sense. I promise you.
Give it context.
So, anyways,
yeah.
I know it sounds like gibberish what I'm saying now, but when it does come, it'll make sense. I promise you.
There's a video that's being.
I swear to God.
That's taken me an entire year to film.
No, 'cause I don't want to give away. That's what the whole thing. There's a video that's being done that's taken me an entire year to film,
Yes.
and
Longest
Stephanie's
porn ever.
editing it.
I don't know my sex tape.
Very soon.
Boom.
So make sure you check out Dave's
Title of my
band
sex tape.
at Naked
So make sure you check out Dave's band at Naked Vengeance. Everything is nakedvengeance.com. Everything on social media is at Naked Vengeance, so follow them. Check me out at whatwashisname.com. NarySigns.com is the same thing as whatwashisname.com.
Because it was all porn.
You
It was
can
all
check out
porn.
my Tumblr, because since Tumblr's being a dick about shit and deleting. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, but
it was
But your feed would be dead. You don't follow anything
I didn't
but
post
porn.
Actually, I only reposted like 3 Iron Man things, but every
that's liked. All my posts are liked are all.
that is correct. I follow everything. I follow and like everything that's liked. All my posts are all porn. Every once in a while, like that's a cool Wolverine drawing.
So much to the point that when the
Look at this vagina. That was like that's so much to the point that when the news broke, when I asked her, I go, "Did you like immediately?" She heard Tumblr's taking out porn, and she goes, "Oh, porn, Nary." Like that's. So, anyways, thank you, Steph. We love you, miss you. Thank you for checking out this extra long episode for the listeners. Sorry it's been long, but we play catch up when she's around. So, thank you guys. Check out everything at geekbro.net. That's including the What's Up Bro podcast, Zero's on Hero, Mama's Merlot, What's Good, Shiver, The Talking Geek, Mr. Multiverse,
And the other
Comedy
one that's
Fitness, and the new one, Better Let Me Tell You.
later.
So make sure you guys check that out.
Year and a half. Fuck.
Wait for 2019.
Yeah.
No, that's all them- a year and a half, buddy.
At 11 o'clock.
So thank you guys. Yeah. 20. Thank you guys for checking us out, man. That's how lists are made.